getting to just play some Faceit games with JKS and Monacy and have them carry my ass, but to just play with Monacy, who's 17 years of age, and you can tell this is it. Like, he's got the bug, he's got that obsession. And I know that like everybody at home has ever had that.
What bug
Not a bad bug.
A new molly or what?
No. The Counter-Strike bug, guys. The one where,
okay.
you know, when we were in high school, Valde, and, you know, that's all you could fucking think about. You had nothing. It was just fragging. That's what he has. And it's like, it's infectious, you know. It's just, let's go again. Like,
add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse. The K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets guaranteed.
Hey buddy, let me show you how to fix that. Bitskins.com. Buy and sell skins instantly. Deposit and withdraw funds instantly with crypto or directly to your Visa card. Woohoo! Bitskins.com, the best skin marketplace.
N1Bet is here to make your world brighter. Bet anytime, anywhere. Just go to n1bet.com and get your free bet with promo code HLTV. When everything is clear and transparent, play is pleasure. n1bet.com. Your bet, your game.
Lights on or lights off? Well, the lights will not be flickering this evening, but you'll only have one side of my face lit. So I hope that everybody joining us tonight for HLTV Confirmed is happy with that. Because I know we get a lot of people in here who love to talk about the light situation. Now, Prof, I want to let you know, you look very well lit. Lucas is extremely happy with how lit you are. Striker, I'm going to give you a big thumbs up. And Valde, Prof was admiring your room. So I think everybody here, other than me, isn't doing well this evening. Now, before we jump too far into it, let me get the housekeeping out of the way. First things first, we've got to thank the sponsors. We got Xtrfy, we got Bitskins, and we have N1Bet. You hear us every week. Big thanks to them for making the show possible. Remember to gamble responsibly. Yeah, tonight we have a guest. It's been a while since we've actually had a player on the show, Prof. It feels like a very long time. Do you remember the last time we had a player on?
I mean, we had Smuya last time, but I guess we don't
Well,
count
he's
him
not
anymore.
in an active professional team, all right?
He just
So hold up.
qualified for the RMR.
Yeah, but he's not in an active professional team. I suppose what I should have... he calls himself a content creator these days.
He just got signed,
Such a kick in the ball. Such a kick in the ball.
Hell, I've already put my foot in my mouth immediately out the gate here. Now, we got Striker here sitting and smiling by. Striker, how are you doing on this lovely Monday evening?
Enjoying time off round robin scenarios.
Yes, the spreadsheet master himself, Striker. You heard Lucas giggle, or did they hear you giggle, Lucas? Is that a yes or a no?
Maybe.
Okay, well, maybe. And Valde, before we actually run this whole bumper to get into the hot seat and do all that good stuff, the most budding question that I see people talking about right now, nothing about Counter-Strike. They want to know your tanning routine. They want to know, how the hell is this guy so bloody golden brown?
You know, it's so funny. Like, everybody's asking me, like, how are you getting so tanned? But what people really should be asking is, like, how did you lose it so quickly again, right? And the secret is that you just go on a 14 days boot camp at the ENCE office and you don't see sunlight for 2 weeks.
Bloody hell.
That's the real question people should be asking.
All right. Well, we know how much Counter-Strike was played. Then, Lucas, let's roll the bumper and let's get into the show. All right, and we are back now. If you're at home watching, listening, tuning in at any juncture, don't know who we're dealing with this tonight. It is Valde. He most previously was in OG. Before that, part of Heroic. You can go a little bit further down the list. We've got North. Actually, North was before Heroic. That's probably the team that you're most well known for. But in more recent times, everybody would know you from your time in OG. You've been on the bench up until this move to ENCE, which has recently gone down. And look, thank you for joining us tonight. I suppose that a lot of our conversation is going to be about that move to ENCE, but we should probably start with exiting OG, mate. So let me just set the scene for everybody here. I should have the article open. Here it is. In the tweet that was made by OG, they're speaking about the fact that you were there for 889 days, that you guys were parting ways. And then in a statement that was made from you, it says, in this case, we're seeing the road to achieve greatness differently. And after a very disappointing RMR, we have had long talks and have agreed to go our separate ways. Therefore, have agreed that I will step aside while I spend my focus and energy on finding a new home where I can pursue my immediate ambitions. So I guess first and foremost, what was going on at that OG time where, you know, that team had never really hit the great success that I think everybody thought it could?
I think you outlined it pretty well, you know, when you phrased the stuff that I said in the statement. Like at the end of the day, I don't really have much to say here. Like there was no drama whatsoever. You know, I love all the guys at OG. I think like mantuuu, Flames, Nexa, all those guys, like the really nice guys. I just think at the end of the day, you know, I needed a fresh start. I was at the team for like 2.5 years, and I think a lot of players can agree with me that when you stay on a team for this long, throughout this many roster changes, etc., and obviously like things didn't go as planned when we failed the last major qualifier, then yeah, I just needed some fresh air and a clean start, and I feel like I got that with ENCE.
Why the hell aren't you on Astralis yet, mate? I think that's the question. Like we're all asking ourselves for the last couple of years. It's like, why the fuck have they not picked this guy up yet? Is that a mystery to you?
I don't know. I did have talks, but at the end of the day, you know, it didn't work out. And yeah, I don't think I'm the one you should ask that question.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a good answer within itself there. Prof Strike, you got anything here with the OG time that maybe you want to touch on?
I mean, I guess after the exit, did you expect it to be like a more straightforward move onto a new team? Because it took you like quite a bit of time, like sitting on the bench, and like, how did you expect that to go?
Yeah, to be honest, I did expect it to go a little bit quicker. Obviously, it was after the major, so there was a lot of teams making roster moves. I did also talk to like a lot of teams. I think probably like 7 or 8 different teams. But at the end of the day, you know, I had to choose carefully, and I think for me, I prioritized the team that I felt like was the best competitively. And yeah, I think ENCE at the end of the day made the most sense for me. So yeah, that's basically it.
What did you like about that? The guys, I mean, you know, we obviously saw them be pretty competitive, but you know, heading into the new season, it's a fairly different roster. What did you like about them?
Yeah, I think if you look at the past half year, I think they were one of the best teams on LAN, for example. You know, they had a lot of great results. Obviously, they lost a couple of good players now. So for us, you know, I think mainly the structure on the team attracted me, and then obviously I think they have some great people on the team. And I felt like role-wise for me, it also made a lot of sense. You know, to a point where I can get more into sort of the action spots compared to being a more supportive kind of player. So I think the main thing for me was like role-wise, and then obviously like the players on the team.
That's actually, yeah, that's actually something that Snappi talked about when we did the interview with him about these moves pretty much right after they happened, was that, you know, they kind of expected you to slot into more free-flowing roles where you're going to have more freedom than, you know, you probably otherwise would have, or that you had before in the previous teams. Can you elaborate on that, and kind of how much, you know, how much do you expect yourself to be more of a star, you know, compared to, like, let's say an OG where I guess you were filling a lot of the spots where you couldn't really do that?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think Snappi also outlined it pretty well in the interview he gave. Obviously, since Spinks left the team, I'm taking over a lot of his roles, and I think he had a lot of good positions, you know, on the different maps. And then obviously me playing as sort of like the lurker on the T side. also gives you a lot of space to make individual decisions and plays. Yeah, I think I'm put into way better positions now as an individual player, and then obviously it will take some time for me because like when you play the supportive kind of role or all the anchor spots for so many years, obviously it's gonna take some transitioning, some getting used to. I also probably need to play like a couple of tournaments where you get into different scenarios. I also need to get my own team. Like I need to know them better as well. How we react as players, what the different people like to do in different scenarios, all this kind of boring stuff. So I think it's like a really boring answer, but I think we need some time, and then obviously we need to play some lands to actually see how we perform when the pressure is on, right?
So,
Yeah,
just talking about the roles. You talked about it like pretty generally. Is there like give us like one spot that you're playing now that you enjoy the most, like on any map?
Giving out free intel here.
I mean, just like one. It's not too much.
I will put it this way, and I think every matchmaking player or whatever FaZe player can probably relate. I'm not playing B Mirage anymore on CT. I think that's one of the like. It was nice knowing you, B Mirage, but it was it's a pleasure to play somewhere else now.
So no more jump spotting, mate. No more just consistent jump spotting with a smoke in your hand type bullshit.
Yeah.
Get something a little bit more exciting in your life. Let's reflect a little bit because obviously there was rumors about you and EG, and EG still a bit of a fun little mess. Was that ever a serious consideration? Was that ever like something that had a bit of follow through, or was that just something that someone had heard? Oh, these guys are talking to Valde, and it turned out some rumor on the grapevine.
Nah, to be honest, like I can be honest at this point, I feel like it was definitely on the table. Obviously they got the coach from Copenhagen Flames, the Vorborg guy.
Yep.
Also got Nilan, who I think is like a pretty exciting player. Obviously it's gonna be really tough for him to get used to calling in English, playing with the like European guys, North American guys, etc. But it was an interesting offer for me, but I think at the end of the day, the reason why it didn't happen was, they have some obligations to fill in terms of if they want to play the EU major qualifier, if they want to play the NA one. So they have, what do you call it, like things have to be in a specific way with DG. Because there's only X amount of spots for European players, right? And they already have Zerg, and now they brought Nilan in as well. So I actually think that was like one of the biggest reasons why I didn't end up there, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like some of the North American League of Legends stuff. I think, Striker, you're probably correct. They're under North American. They're only allowed to have like a couple of imports, right?
Yeah, it's there's like weird rules there where like after a few years you're now considered an NA player.
Would be considered NA that's at this point for sure.
That I think is also what GG kind of were hoping would happen, and that's how they would allow they would be able to have 3 European players, technically, because they thought it would not be citizenship, but it would be residence, which is obviously
like a
with
permanent resident type basis.
Yeah, with third case it would have been NA. So like obviously they technically have 3 North American players, but not along with the new Valve rules, which say pretty specifically citizenship. So that's kind of where the crux of the issue is.
Okay. This is a bit more of I suppose what's going on while you're on the bench type thing, Valde. Like when you're sitting there and you're like, well, I'm looking for a new team. Like what are you doing every day? You kind of strike me as the type of guy who probably has like a routine of, I'm going to go and do this much practice a day, and I'm going to maybe spend a bit more time with my girlfriend or the dog or whatever. But what did you do while you were kind of just sitting, chilling, looking for a team?
I was actually watching a lot of tournaments, to be honest, like playing the game a lot of hours. I think when you're at this point in my career, for example, I think there's only one thing to do, and that's like grind as much as you can.
Okay.
Like there is so many youngsters, who's coming up, playing a lot of hours, putting a lot of effort into the game, watching demos, finding new grenades. And I think if you don't want to fall behind the meta, you really got to put in the hours. So I was just trying to play as much as I could individually, and then obviously had like a small break during the summer. But apart from that, I was like talking to a lot of teams, trying to stay in shape individually, just like watching a lot of demos, watching a lot of streams, stuff like this. So that's basically it.
Do you think that's like a necessary thing? Sorry, Prof. Do you think that's a necessary thing to watch like when you have that downtime, right? Because one of the things I'm looking at now is people are consistently having to reinvent themselves, even from series to series sometimes, because of how much people are getting counter-stratted now.
Yeah.
Like, and I imagine when you're pracking in a team, you obviously have your team focus, but when you don't have a team, I guess you had more hours to watch demos and like kind of broaden that thought process. It must be a very difficult thing to try and balance and like work out how much should I be watching of tape and coming up with new ideas, and how much do I need to be playing with my team. Like,
Yeah.
are you going to try and watch more demos and stuff since you've had this break, or how's that affected you?
I don't know if I would say more. Like, I don't think demos in and of itself, is gonna make you like
Not
a
just
great
useful.
player.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
it's like obviously a combination of different stuff, but I do think it can help. Like obviously I also think it's individually. Like some people probably don't watch demos at all. Some players do watch a lot. So at the end of the day, I also feel like it connects with the amount of confidence you have as a player. I think if you're in a great period, maybe you don't need as much input. But if you're playing a new spot on a new map, for example, I think demos can really help you, and you can learn how different players or how different teams approach different maps, and try and like see and figure out what they're doing great. So I think it can be a really good tool, but obviously it's like different for every player, I guess.
Okay. Sorry, Prof.
Yeah, my question was just like, did you notice anything in this like off time, being on the outside, not playing? Did you notice anything like changing in the game or something new in the meta that you found like pretty interesting, either like from team side, individual, or something that's happening?
I mean, I do think overall that people are getting way better at playing CS. Like just like the overall level, like even when you play fucking Face It or whatever,
Yeah,
like
it's crazy.
I don't feel like you get a lot of easy kills anymore, Like people are really good at like double peeking, always flash peeking, playing together, playing smart, just waiting, sitting, holding off angles, stuff like this. So I do feel like the overall level of Counter-Strike has really improved.
Does that also motivate you to play more? You're like, if these guys on Face It are this good, like there's a lot of competition for spots. Like I might as well like sit and play some more DM.
Face It is easy, bro. But
I
yeah,
lost 7 games consecutively today, mate. It wasn't fucking easy, as I was miserably finding myself go down the drain.
Well, you just have to come into my stack then. But yeah, to be serious for a moment, I think just as you mentioned before, chat, I think like if you do a certain move once or twice, you probably need to change it up for the next game. Otherwise, you'll be figured out. Like things are moving so fast, people are getting so good at anti-stratting. All the people are playing really smart. So yeah, I do think you always need to be 2 steps ahead even. And that's just the way it is at the moment.
Okay.
I know it's a little bit early to say maybe at the moment, but I wanted to ask about Snappi in general, because obviously he's kind of the IGL that brought you into the tier 1, essentially. Like you started with him with that Team X/Heroic, squad that had like Modi, Freeze, and Glaive, right? And Snappi and yourself, I think, was kind of like the main team that you played with.
Yep.
I'm curious about, I mean, this is like what, 6 years ago now, or something like that?
Yeah, it's like
I'm
6 years.
curious about like how do you look at Snappi then, and then how does he compare to now? Because obviously, he's a guy that's been around for a long time.
Yeah, true. Like first of all, I think Snappi was like super unfortunate with some of the previous teams he's been on. Like I don't think it's a coincidence that once he got better players and a stable organization where he can actually bring in new talent that he wants and he can set up the structure how he wants, I don't think it's a coincidence that he's suddenly doing better, From what I heard, some of his previous teams was kind of a mess for different reasons. So yeah, I think it also goes without saying that during the past 6 years, you obviously develop like both as an in-game leader, as a person, the meta is also way different compared to 6 years ago. So I don't think you can really compare to all the way back then. I just think that he improved on so many different levels, like both as a person, but also as an in-game leader. So I guess that's all I have to say about it.
Don't you like, if I think back to that time, I might not be 100% correct, but I feel like when you parted ways, like that it didn't end up like on great terms. I don't mean like individually you hated each other, but I feel like your exit wasn't just about like in-game stuff. It was like more so it's like you didn't mesh well with Snappi at the time. Was that kind of the vibe?
I don't feel like it was anything between me and Marco. I think we've always been good friends. We've also stayed in touch, throughout the time when we didn't play together on a team. I just think it was like, obviously people were younger back then, also myself, like maybe a little bit too hot-headed at times. But yeah, like I don't feel like there was any bad vibes whatsoever. We also played together for a long time, and I think I will always look back at that time with great memories, So yeah, I don't think there was too much about it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm looking here at obviously you joined the team on what was it 20th of August, right? That's when the official news came out. But from the point of view signing with them to the point of you then going doing this boot camp that you've just been on with the team, right? What's the turnaround time here? Because I guess these things start, with maybe some messages on WhatsApp or Twitter or shit like that, and then eventually it gets a bit more serious, and the right people get involved in the call. But you've already just like gone to a facility. You've had 2 weeks of boot camp immediately. Like this, it all happened really quickly, or is it a bit more of a drawn out process?
Nah, like I've considered ENCE for a while, but once we started talking together, I think it went pretty quickly, to be honest. I think what did it take? I think like around 2 weeks maybe before everything was set in place. But I think I had a talk with E2, the coach, Saw, and then Snappi, obviously. And then obviously we had to be on the same page, and we did talk a lot about things, how they like to run things on the team, and how that would fit together with how I view CS and the things I want to do as an individual. And I really like the way that they structure it, both the practice, how they run the team, etc. So I really think it was a great match. And then the rest was just like contractual stuff, I guess. So yeah, not much to say about it really. It went pretty smooth.
I know
Okay.
that Snappi was saying that there were tryouts, and I think you were involved in those along with a couple of other players. I know. Well, I mean, Stacks was one of the names that was pretty mentioned pretty much outright. How I just want to know how these tryouts go, because obviously, this is like at the end of the season, and doesn't really have anything else to play. They're figuring out who to get, right? And so, like, how do you get into the tryouts? Like, what is said to you, before it starts? Like, how much is it outlined? What they're expecting from you and stuff like that? How is the process really?
As far as I know, they tried out 3 different players, I believe, 3 or 4 at least. And the only thing we kind of had to clarify was like the prax is not so much about looking at the scoreboard, for example, because I just came home from a holiday. I think it's more of the fact that you look at how people mesh together. Obviously, like the communication, how people are reacting in different scenarios. And I think just from a couple of pracs, you can probably already get a pretty clear picture of what the person is like in the game, and also obviously how he's communicating. So yeah, that's basically it. Just a couple of practice days. And then obviously it was like their decision. So I just came to the TeamSpeak, played a couple of practices, and then that was basically it from my side, at least.
All right. Well, I think obviously your edition's a big one. The SunpayUs edition is another big one here, right? Obviously that coming in. You look the Spinks gap that's being left, right? Hades gap that's being left. It's basically a whole new team at this point, right? Is that what it feels like with that whole boot camp, or did you feel like you were picking up where the previous team left off, or did it feel like, all right, we got 2 new players, we're going to start from scratch? What was kind of the vibe?
I think obviously when you change 2 players, that's way different compared to just changing 1. I think usually if you're just changing 1 player, he will probably just try and slot into the like kind of what the old player did, I guess, at least if they play the same roles. But I think when you change the orb, then obviously there is a lot more changing. So for us, I just think it's about maybe taking some of the best stuff that we had from our previous teams. It's not about mixing the whole playbook up or like changing everything from scratch again. I think we're still on the same baseline, but obviously we need to get into ENCE's way of doing things. And then maybe it's about, me and Alvaro, we're more trying to take a couple of things from our previous teams, which we thought worked the best, and then you try and like combine things. But overall, it's still Snappi calling the shots. It's still to the coach deciding a lot, and then we are just trying to bring sort of like the best from our previous teams, right? So yeah, that's basically it.
All right. Boys, you got anything else on joining the team? I guess maybe about some of the other personalities. Yeah. What do you got, Prof?
Yeah, I think something that SunpayUs talked about was like him bringing a lot of like, maybe not a lot, but some secondary calling and ideas and stuff like that. How did you see that from like your perspective, and also the classic thing that people talk about you, like you are an in-game leader, therefore you need to talk a lot and all of these things. So how do these two things mesh together?
I think for SunpayUs, you know, he is a really vocal player, and he's a player that likes to be in control of what he's doing. So I think he's adding a lot of great input to the team. He's also really good with grenades and setting other people up. So I think that's like an awesome capability as a player. As for myself, I'm just trying to, you know, I obviously need to get into a lot of different roles, different spots. So I wouldn't say I'm doing a lot of like secondary in-game leading and stuff like that. It's more basic stuff, you know, if I see a gap that the other team have, every now and then, you know, if I have a great idea, I'll present it, and then Snappi can obviously choose, like, does he want to go for it, or does he have a better idea himself? So that's basically it. But I don't see myself as like a secondary in-game leader at all, actually. I'm just playing my positions, but then obviously I'll be vocal in terms of like what the other team is doing or what we could do to counter it and stuff like that. So I think it's like pretty basic CS stuff, to be honest. I think on every team, I think it's really good if you can have a mix, because obviously it can be too much if everybody wants to bring ideas to the table, if everybody wants to change stuff up all the time. So I think it's pretty nice if you can have a balance where you maybe have 3 little bit more vocal players, and then maybe you just have 2 a little bit more passive players who's like not only giving info, but you know what I mean, like just playing their role, doing what's being said, and yeah, just like focusing on the crosshair, I guess. And then I think that's a pretty good mix to have on a team.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like more your input is more from your kind of like lurking role. Obviously, you know, you're going to be on the other side of the map a lot of the time, away from everybody else. So you are the only one who can tell Snappi, okay, here's a gap. You know, this is what we could do.
Yeah, like it is pretty basic stuff like that. I don't really know how to explain it better than before. I think, you know, it's also a huge plus having some people who's just a little more quiet, you know. I think you need both on a good team, to be honest. I don't think one is better than the other. I just think you need to find the right balance.
Yeah, people know when they need to chip in, right? You can't always all be adding little different bits and bobs of spice to the mix. Now, look, this team, you guys, you'll be playing in EPL for Group C, so still have another week. Well, I guess, yeah, you travel in about a week's time from now. You've got Heroic, Astralis, Mouse, Complexity, Heat in there, and then not too long after that, you might have the playoffs. Not too long after that, you're going to have the RMRs, and then straight in towards the major. Do you think this is a good runway for you and the team to be ready? Like, what are there any ambitions and goals set for like Pro League into the RMRs? What's been discussed?
To be honest, we haven't discussed any specific goals yet in terms of Pro League. I think it's just about like, obviously we need to try and hit the ground running. I think we're just gonna prepare as good as we can. Obviously, we just had the boot camp, so I think it's just about getting some matches under our belt, to be honest. Like playing some officials, seeing how we'll do, testing our map pool, testing our strats, stuff like this. So yeah, I think we'll just take one game at a time, and then we'll see what happens.
All right.
I mean, the major must be. Okay, the major must be pretty big for you though, because with OG, you know, there was that basically haven't been in a major for what is it now, like 3 years?
Yeah.
Since
like even the one we
Starlighter
did qualify for, you know, that was the one that didn't
happen.
Up.
Yeah,
it didn't happen. So that's like, it really feels bad, man.
But yeah, my point is like it's gotta kind of like it's gotta work at you, you know, like kind of like I have to make it to the major now.
Like,
finally.
obviously I really want to make the major. Like I feel like I almost want to do a bet right now, but yeah.
Look,
I think
that's on this show. Generally only go one way, but
Yeah, Striker wins apparently in about 10 more days. I think is
the
at
most
the point I have to
the
pay.
most important question. We know this decides everything. Is like the question is, how did the bootcamp go? Are you winning your games? Therefore, we can judge and base all of our future assessments on this. And me and Sponge are playing fantasy. I mean, I'm technically playing, but if I'm not scoring any points, am I actually playing? I don't know. But you need to give us
participation. Bloody hell! Don't even listen to me, guys. Jesus,
yeah, I'm gonna cry. So that's kind of like
qualification. Fucking hell.
So is it? How did the?
Are we picking you in the fantasy team? Is what he's asking.
How is the practice going?
We won all our games. ENCE is winning the major.
There you
wow. You hear that, bro? You only pick 2 players from their team. Though.
But the fantasy is for the major. So are you winning EPL?
I mean, what can I say? I want to fuck Prof up here, to be honest. Like, I don't even want to help him. Like, I mean, also last time I did say I'd never attend this podcast again, but here we are.
Here we go.
I mean, yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure it was because Chad was reminding me the way we lost the EPL final or like the IEM summer final last time.
Okay.
No.
Oh yeah.
You have to go back and watch it. Like, I just remember like
the flashback just hit me. Why am I doing this? I said I'd never do it again. Yeah, we all been there in different situations in life.
Few memorable rounds. Okay, boys, should we jump into who wants to be a Skinionaire and then do the viewer questions, Prof? How does that sound?
Let's do that.
Yeah,
let's do that.
All right, Lucas, you ready? All right, you trying? Striker, you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, so are you happy to be the lifeline again here for Valde?
I don't have a problem with that.
All right.
Not always,
I feel like there
well,
might be a few, like 2 more difficult questions. I feel like this time.
All right. Valde, you remember the concept?
Yeah, I hope. I mean, otherwise you gotta outline it.
I'll run you through it. We got 5 questions. There's 5 levels. Every question you get correct, we move the ticker up, and one lucky viewer who is typing Bitskins in chat right now will win the skin valued to the amount of questions that you get correct. So basically, you're giving back to the people right now. So we're about to do Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire? You ready for question number 1?
Yep. Hit me.
All right. Question number 1. Which of the following players was a part of the first ENCE lineup in 2013? Was it A, Sunny, B, Zen, or C, Alexi B?
First ENCE lineup. I'm trying to think.
That was the hard one here, Prof.
Yeah, I said there are a couple of harder ones, but this one is also, you can logically determine this.
Zen is the oldest of those 3. I think it's not Alexi. So
I mean, I hate it when he phrases it like that, because basically if I answer wrong, he's telling me I'm stupid.
There is, I'm pretty sure one of these players never played in ENCE.
Okay.
I mean, well, that's a big big giveaway. Yeah. I mean, then it's gonna be Sunny then. No, I don't know. You have 10 seconds, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, like my gut feeling was Sunny, but yeah. So I guess
I'll lock in Sunny.
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, lock it in Sunny. Correct answer is A, Sunny. So the Zen was a trap card there, Striker. He lured you in with that.
I mean, then he fixed it. Then he fixed it by saying one of those didn't.
Because Striker is just like,
I know Sunny did Alexi.
It's a fucking deep end right there.
I mean, I said Alexi. It's not Alexi. So
question number 2.
Yeah, great help.
Which team did D-Hub play for before joining ENCE? Was it A, Sprout, B, Mouse, or C, Gamer Legion?
It has to be Sprout, right?
Yeah.
I want to say Sprout.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Bang on. Locking it in. Correct answer is A, Sprout.
Name
he's in the chat. So much pressure, man.
Snatchy was there. Was Snatchy there when before he went?
I'm pretty sure it's.
I think they were together. Yeah.
Which means Speedy and Dennis would have still.
I had to answer this question correctly, otherwise I'd get no drops tomorrow.
Yeah, Pavan was there at the time as well, but I don't know if Snatchy was like, there was like a period. Anyway.
All right. Well, let's go to question number 3 and we'll swiftly move on. You will be getting drop weapons tomorrow. That's good news. Who was Snappy's teammate in Contact? A, Otond, B, Alu, or C, Zori?
I feel like that was. I'm gonna go for Otto.
I'm locking in.
I'm not sure,
Otto.
but
I like it.
For it.
I'm locking it in confidently here. Correct answer is A auto. So we're going to A 3 times in a row. So unless Prof's trying to test and see if we're like monkeys just answering C every single time, I think the next one might be not A. Let's find out.
Nice, let's go.
Question 4. Maybe it's a trap, and it is going to be
the red
A.
probably made it A. All
Yeah, he probably did. Saw won an international LAN while playing for Havu. Which event was it? ESWC 2014, WESG 2017, or IESF 2018?
Striker shaking his head.
I mean, I
doesn't
feel
know.
like it's obvious. That's why I'm shaking my head.
Is it obvious? Like, I don't even know. Maybe I'm fucking trolling here. Like, the IESF, I feel like I never heard about it, but...
Well, that should give you the clue that it's probably it.
Okay, I mean, this is probably where I have to listen to Striker, so I'll go for...
It should be, yeah.
I'll go for C.
All right, lock it in C, and the correct answer is...
Wait, Prof, was I supposed to mix these up?
No, I don't know.
I'm kidding. It is
All
correct.
right. Correct answer is C. Imagine that. It definitely wasn't A.
Nice.
There was no way they went ESWC in
They didn't
2014.
do WSG.
Plant Mystic.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
All right. And finally, question number 5. This is to get the 5 from 5 here. Did SunpayUs send you the money, Prof?
No, what a scammer. I'm gonna beat him up in Malta.
He said it to me.
Oh, dear.
I'm
Okay.
gonna send our goons to beat him out for the 35 euros or whatever.
Question 5. SunpayUs was invited to join his first CSGO team while attending a tournament in which game? Street Fighter 5, Rocket League, or Hearthstone?
Okay, I mean, this is gonna be a wild guess, but maybe it's like 200 IQ. But I saw him playing Rocket League at the boot camp, so that's what I'm gonna go for.
Okay. I don't know the answer
Sounds
to this
logical.
one.
I mean,
So
I
I
have
have
no
no
clue, but
I
that's
have
what
no
I'm
clue
gonna-
either. No,
I'm gonna lock
Unfortunately,
it
I
in.
don't control what he sees at boot camp, so this wasn't a bait by me.
Oh, C, Hearthstone. All right, fair enough.
Oh,
Look,
shit.
4 out of 5. That ain't bad. So
I mean, I need to have a talk with fucking Alvaro tomorrow. I tell you that.
Yeah.
man.
why
He's
aren't you
fucking
playing that
ruining my
fucking
streak.
card game with the wizards and the pixies and all that good
It's-
stuff?
One of my favorite player lores fun facts of all time.
What, Hearthstone?
Yeah, just
Okay.
him playing a tournament and then being like, "Yeah, I'm Supreme Master First Class."
Okay.
And the guy was joined the team.
Well,
that's it.
we've drawn our winner. It's Arc Thorn, following since the 26th of April this year. Congratulations, Arc Thorn. Our people will reach out to your people, and we will get you the skin ASAP. Alrighty, Prof, did you have those questions up? I was reading through some of them, just trying to see which ones we maybe didn't ask.
Yeah.
This
This is an interesting question.
Okay.
What do you think will be the next step for mantuuu? Considering he played with him for quite a long time, and my personal opinion, he's a pretty good player. I don't think he should like disappear. Like, he definitely should have some offers. The question is, where does he land, and what kind of a team does he need to look for, if not a specific one?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I'm trying to look at the team list here. Like, I know for a fact that mantuuu has a lot of friends like in German CS, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Mhm.
think if there was like a team there that he could join.
Big.
mantuuu to Sprout though.
Yeah, I was just
They're
thinking
not
about
German anymore, though.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
But
but
he
I mean,
he could-
Slacks is the next guy to get upgraded, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I actually wanted to say Sprout, so I think that would be my immediate answer in lack of like a better team.
I mean,
there's not many
no
options for
yeah,
international AWPers at
exactly.
the moment. It's fucking
Yeah,
hard, right?
I was thinking about Mouse as well, but they obviously have Taurus here, and I guess they
Yeah.
want to keep him. So
Unless you go to North America, which is what Houseoak's just done, right? Like, other than that, it's pretty hard. Or maybe
And
even
there's like
Australia,
Endpoint
but
as
even
well,
then.
like a potential, for Crucial. But I mean, same time, it's not like it's an obvious upgrade.
Sure. Yeah. Look,
And
and
he's kind of
and-
British as well, so
Yeah, he's a fitty. What else we got here? There was some stuff we already touched on the OG stuff about. Yeah, there was a question about how he cited differences in ambitions for leaving OG, only for them to go on and sign Dexter, by far the most ambitious signing ever. His thoughts of,
I mean, I
The-
can answer that pretty quickly. Like,
Okay.
When I left the team, or when like I didn't get presented any options in terms of the new signing, so I had no idea that Dexter was joining the team. So I can always just tell you that like, yeah, I had no idea. So yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, it's hard for you to know, what the future is going to look like.
I
if they
mean, to
don't
be
know.
honest, what OG even said in statements was like, we're looking for to develop talents, and then Nexa's statement about Fiku and Neofrag was like the best we could get for our budget or whatever. So it did really seem like they were going in one direction, and then suddenly it's like, oh, this is Dexter. Here we go. It didn't seem like it was the plan even when you were there.
No,
So
but I'm pretty sure, as far as I remember, maybe it wouldn't have changed anything at the end of the day, but I'm pretty sure mantuuu was ill at some
Yeah.
tournament, and then they used Dexter as
Yeah.
stand-in, right? So
Lisbon, right?
maybe if mantuuu wasn't sick, he'd still be playing on OG.
Yeah.
Like at that tournament. But
stole
maybe
his
they would have
spot.
replaced him anyway. Obviously, I wasn't part of that process, so I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we can always return to more questions with Valde as we're going here, and
Yeah.
once we get to playtime as well. So, Lucas, let's roll the bumper and get into the recent news.
The Xtrfy M42 RGB, what a fun mouse with 5 colorways, lightweight frame at just 59 grams with the swappable backplate to suit your grip style, the sensor, the easy core, the smooth skates, and driverless control for RGB and DPI is why you should check out the M42 RGB down below.
Buy and sell your skins now. Easy, fast, and safe. The best skin site. Credit card deposits and withdrawals. Instant cash out methods. Get the best deals. Quick, simple, reliable. Bitskins.com.
Tired of watching your favorite team lose? Go to n1bet.com and win with us. Use promo code HLTV and become a winner with your favorite team. n1bet.com. Your bet, your game.
All right, and we are back, and we're going to get into the recent news. We're going to start with the N1 moment. And Prof, you've selected the N1 moment for us this week. What are we going to be looking at?
We are looking at one of the greatest moments of all time to happen
Okay.
in the history of civilization.
Okay, wow. Okay, you've
Maybe
really
tone
picked
it
this one
down
up.
95%, and then we get to what our actual N1 moment is. It's a nice moment. Like we have the end of DreamHack Melbourne, or now ESL Challenger Melbourne.
ESL Challenger.
ESL Challenger.
It's like ESL Pro League. Get the terminology correct, Prof.
Electronic Sport League, Pro League,
The
League
acronym
of
of the
Champions
acronym. That's the one.
Conference. But yeah, this is just the kind of the final moment. I caught some bits of the tournament that was happening down under, and the crowd was actually pretty nice. We had international teams traveling all the way to Australia, having some like international competition there for the first time since all of this COVID bullshit started. So that was nice. And I think, I don't know why exactly, but there's a lot of Brazilians there. And then every event that happens in Australia, all of the Brazilian teams have quite a bit of support.
Yeah.
So it was, and the Australians are loud as they are. It was just a nice event overall. Yeah, we can
Show
play
everybody.
it.
So this is the crowd and whatnot. After we had Pain Gaming taking on, it was Pain Gaming taking on Imperial in the grand final of this one here. There was Entropic, Wings Up, a couple of Aussie teams. OG was in the mix there as well. So I think there was actually, I was reading the feedback thread that was put up on Reddit, and there was a lot of good feedback from people who were there in the audience. They said they had a good time. They said the crowd was great, and we've known to expect that from IEM Sydney in the past, right? We've always had a good time. There we go. There's the crowd. Shoeies were getting done.
There's a shoey as well.
Yeah, this is kind of one of the ones where it's like, man, I wish it was still a big like IEM level of event, and I wish like I could be there because I never really get to go home anymore. But it's good to see the turnout, right? I think that's really good to see the turnout. Obviously, the event, I guess we can talk a bit about the event itself. So that was Imperial with Cello after the FNX change up, and Pain when they had 2 new additions, right? Because they've had to completely mix things up. It's Skulls alongside of Xavier, the 2 new boys on that roster right there. And the fact they go to their first event and pick up a trophy is pretty cool. Wings Up beating OG is maybe one of the headlines of all of that event right there. But look, I didn't get to watch a lot of the Counter-Strike. I'll be completely honest. The time zone it was on while I was working Pro League stuff, it wasn't like there was a huge amount of Counter that I could watch.
Pretty impossible, yeah.
Yeah. So other than wrapping it up, that Australian Counter-Strike, Greyhound had to use hats to play because Vexite qualified with Vertex to the event, so they couldn't use Vexite. to play. Party Astronauts were there and came dead last. Vertex, they're playing with stand-ins. Greyhound was doing the same. Entropic still looked fucking rough as guts. I don't know what else to say about the event. It just like it looked like a good time, but other than that, not.
I read an interesting interview with Dexter, who gave all of the excuses for why they lost, essentially, and not even an excuse, not in an excuse way, but I feel like everything he said made sense. First of all, first one was you're never gonna guess what it was.
Jet lag.
It was jet lag.
Yeah, that one I'll give them though. I'll give them jet lag. Neofrag, Fiku, probably Dexter as well. Like Australia's a long way away.
Yeah,
but it's not like you can't sleep on
you can't sleep on Australia.
It will genuinely fuck you up. Like I can tell you
it's a short event, so it's not like they had like a lead up and everything. So that was one of their issues, he said, and that's something like he didn't say it was a problem. He said, I learned something from this event is like jet lag is real. He said that, and then also they had problems with in terms of practice, just like having PCs at all. Like the travel is like long, takes you like 2 days almost to get there, and then they didn't really have like a good practice PC setup or something. Like I don't know what the exact
it used to be back
was.
In my day, mate.
Yeah, you just rock up and you practically play, and he's like, you're used to playing like 1 to 3 hours of practice before you play a game. And now we didn't have that, so they were kind of off. And then the third thing, or this is what he mentioned first, actually, he just said like we should have expected Wings Up to not play our style of Counter-Strike, but we didn't, and they surprised us and they beat us. So and they were good. So that's kind of the story, and all of that makes absolute sense in a way, but it's still super underwhelming and disappointing result
for
upset. RG.
Yeah, it's as big as Navi losing to Endpoint level of upset type situation we got going on here. But all in all, like that's one of the things that's a lot of people don't realize this. Valde, you've been around long enough though. Remember the early days when we'd go to these events and there wasn't prac PCs. Like you didn't actually have practice PCs. You did hasn't always been a standard. That's only been a standard since like was it maybe like one of the first epicenters started putting prac rooms in like hotel rooms for players and shit.
2017. They just played like they had enough setups that they just played for everybody on the same PCs that they played on the actual tournament, right? So that was kind of like how it started off.
Because
Star Ladder in 2017, I also remember had like a huge practice area for all of the teams, but it was just like one big hall and everyone was there. It wasn't like actual rooms.
Yeah. I remember I went to like a DreamHack in London and there's no no, there wasn't any prac PCs for that. And you rock up, you fly from Australia to play in the event. And on the plane, the update changes the M4A1S. So then you have to use, this is the first great M4A1S.
2014.
Yeah. Was that 2014? Wasn't it 2015?
No, 14.
I thought it was 2015 because I was still using the silenced M4 against Titan.
2015,
you mean when they nerfed it, or?
Yeah, they nerfed it in 2015.
Okay, not that when they brought it in. Fair enough.
I think so.
Bro,
anyway.
Practice rooms back in the days was crazy. I have a crazy story. Like, do you remember there was a tournament back in the days called Northern Arena in Canada?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was at this tournament with, I don't remember if it was Heroic or Team X or whatever, but we actually had a practice room, and the hotel was like a skyscraper, so we were at the like 30th floor or something. Then we're about to go into a prac, and then Niko, my teammate, is telling me like, do you also hear music? And then I just look at him like, no, what do you mean? And then we got into a couple of rounds into the practice, and then he says, guys, I swear I'm hearing music in my headset. What's going on? And then we like put volume 0 in the console, and then we're like, what? I can actually hear like voices and music. Then we obviously we all tapped, checked our PCs, like did anybody had anything running? That like it's the craziest shit ever. We found out that the sound card from our headset was picking up radio frequencies from some radio tower in the building next to us. Like, I'm not kidding. So we had to put, what do you call it, like tin foil on our headset wires. Like this is the craziest shit. I swear you can ask my teammates. It's a true story.
Tin foil. What the hell?
Yeah, I swear
people listening. That's next level. People trying to listen into your strats and shit, mate. They got the wiring crossed or something.
But we could hear some local radio station or something like so. Obviously, it would have like music and then the speakers like talking every now and then, right?
Okay.
That was some crazy shit.
Okay,
and in terms of the jet lag, I also remember back in the days at that tournament, like we flew from Denmark to Canada Then we flew straight from Canada to San Francisco to play IM Oakland.
Yes.
And then after we agreed that if we went out early from IM Oakland, we'd fly straight to Shanghai after to play like a Chinese tournament. And then I was home for like a couple of days, and then I went to stand in for Dignitas in the US again. So I went Denmark,
Jesus.
Canada,
Bloody
US,
hell.
China, Denmark, US, back to Denmark. And then, of course, like I missed my flight on the way home and lost my luggage just to top it off.
Oh, no.
Of course, that had to happen, like fucking hell.
Yeah, so I bet you believe in jet lag, huh?
Yeah, I mean, what can I say?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know really what else to mention about Melbourne here. Are there any other cliff notes that we want to? It just seemed positively received. No
yeah,
real
good for
showstopper
Wings Up
names.
to
Yep.
do some damage. That's a good sign that they're
Help
like
strengthen the more teams of the RMR conversation.
yeah, for sure.
Doesn't help with the Aussie side of things being dog water, but yeah, what do you do?
2 Brazilian teams on top leading up to Rio Major. And Vinny did say in a post-match interview that the crowd was like a mini Rio.
Oh,
so
nice. Okay.
it's like 10% or 20% of what is to be expected in a couple of months.
Yeah, we also had MIBR yesterday winning at like an online event, right? As well, which I did. I was like,
CCT.
"Wait, what the fuck? I was like, why MIBR? What's going on? And it was a little online event, but that's good. 2 Brazilian trophies in the same day. Strike, you got anything you want to touch on with Melbourne, or you're good in the hood?
No, not necessarily. I think it's just, I mean, I was just looking through stats because like the time zone makes it really impossible to catch the action, especially with EPL going in at the same time. So I watched like half a map or something and wasn't even an important map. So just from stats alone, I thought Skulls was doing well, and that's like one of the new additions to Payne. I think he was by far their best player at the tournament. So just something to note.
Okay. Yeah, cool. We're going to bring up next the RMR that's going to be going down for the Americas side of things because we want to talk about the lack of North American teams, I suppose. There's a lot of Brazilian teams. There's a lot of representation from South America. There's that link, Lucas. Bring that up for everybody playing at home, and I can read through the teams who are going to be there. So the North American representation is Team Liquid, Complexity, Evil Geniuses, and then they currently go by the name of Squirtle Squad, but you can see Semphis tweeting about I think they're the X something Gladiators, looking for someone to represent when they get to the RMR. This is a team like Cynic, B Wills, 60, Mr. George Snorts, and Jazz Pimp. Some fun names in that team right there. But you've also got Swisher and Motum on ATK. So but they also have a Swede and
almost 5.
South African. So I don't know how we kind of frame that one. How do we frame that one?
4.5 teams, let's say.
Okay, 4.5 teams. And then the rest of the names we got is Furia, 00 Nation, Payne, who we just mentioned, Imperial 9Z, who are making a change at the moment. They just benched Rocks, right? I think they just got rid of Rocks. MIBR, who are just Team 1, Arctic, which is another Brazilian name with a whole bunch of new names.
Super
again.
new ones, yeah.
Oplano with KNG's lot. Infinity, which has got some Mexican players in it, I believe. A couple guys from Peru and a gentleman from Colombia. So a bit more of a South American mix going on there. And Isurus, people normally see that name kind of floating around every now and again. So that's the representation. And I don't think that's too unexpected. Is it, Prof?
This guy's name is Kinky.
Yeah, well, we had a Kinky, right? He was in Dream Eaters.
Yeah, Hard Legion, whatever, in Dream Eaters.
But yeah, this kind of setup here, I guess.
Q gets started with Q.
Huh?
He's looking up Kinky.
Yeah,
there's like
QI something, right? Yeah, something like that. But were we expecting any other North American names to qualify? Like, are there any other North American teams here that we go, oh, well, those guys missed out?
No, I'm not really sure, honestly.
Because I don't have
because
anything.
EG can't, right? Because they have the main team already. I mean, the other two teams from EG.
That's what we
they
spoke about before. They cut themselves right off. They cut themselves at the knees.
Yeah, but they went into it knowing that was going to happen, right? So that's kind of like their own choice.
Are you looking at the rankings like Timberman, B-Hop, Xtrfy?
So nothing. We're not missing anybody that we thought we would be having.
Not really.
You'd like for some of them to qualify, like you'd
just
want
for experience
someone
purposes,
new.
You mean
someone new to come through? It's like some new talents, something. But it
nothing
didn't
at
happen.
the moment. How about this one, Valde? Do you think ENCE would qualify for the major at the Americas RMR? This is
That's
where you
so
should go.
really-
Like,
this is
fuck
like-
yeah, fuck America. But
you're
you're
asking
playing
the
it
tough
safe.
question. Nah.
There's 6
like-
spots here, mate.
What the fuck is this question, bro? Of course, we qualify.
I was trying to throw you an easy one. You meant to, yeah, of course. Because you're not going to give us too much about the practice and how it's all going with ENCE against the European opponents, right?
I
I'm going
mean,
to
I
have to ask
feel-
the teams you're playing.
Feel you guys are fishing tonight. Like you're fishing.
Well,
all the
we
time.
want to know, man. We want to know what's ENCE going to be looking like. One of the best teams the first half of the year. We're wondering if you got anything for us, if we should be getting excited, if we should be flying the flag, getting Nado on the phone.
I mean, you can watch our pro league games, man.
I'll be commentating them, so I should
Nice.
be there firsthand, hopefully. Okay.
Or second hand.
Well, secondhand, but we'll talk about that soon. That'll be coming up soon. We'll be talking about that soon. Don't you worry. We got plenty of time to talk about that.
This is one of the I don't even know why I'm enjoying this. Like, why am I enjoying this? Like, this shouldn't be a thing that I enjoy. This laugh that I just had, but it's like it's so deeply enjoyable for some reason. It's I'm just a bad person. I feel.
No,
like.
I think it's one of these situations.
Pain and suffering everywhere.
If you don't laugh, you'll cry type thing. But as I said, we'll get to it soon. All right, we got one more little topic to get through here, and this is Headtrick being transfer listed by NAVI, which is curious. Now, I haven't read this article from top to bottom. Is there anything in there that is important information? Are they keeping him as like the potential substitute in case they need somebody for the major, like, or are they just he's on the transfer list and he's gone? Like,
I mean, I would assume they will list him up if he's still, but at the same time, like he might not even stick around in the organization long enough, right? So maybe they're going to use somebody else. So I guess it depends on whether there's going to be any offers for him that are going to prevent him from playing at the major, for example, which is probably not going to happen. But in any case, I mean, the only thing to talk about here is kind of like the lack of PR coordination and also fucks given by Blade, which is just funny, right? Because like you see Headtrick, being put into the team for Blast, right? And he does like pretty reasonably well if you look at stats. Like he obviously didn't do badly, right? But at the same time, Blade says he's not really ready for tier 1, and he lists like this metaphor where he explains like why he doesn't think Headtrick is ready, that he just doesn't see opportunities, whatever. He's not on top of the hill, and then Navi come out. They've shown off their like young little boy against the tier 1. He does pretty well, and Navi say, "Oh, we think he's ready for tier 1," and in that PR, and like we're ready to sell him off because he's ready for tier 1. So I just found that funny.
Shout out to Headtrick, he's in chat. So there we go.
I was just looking at the roster that's left over there with Navi Junior, and I was like, was it Frozik and Unbroken? I was like, I fucking played Face It with them today. I was like, no wonder they were so nice to me. I was like, okay, fair. Normally people are just absolute. There we go. Okay, that's just kind of hit me in the face right there. You can play with the Navi Junior guys. Just go queue up Face It Premium, everybody. What's Headtrick saying? Is he having a good time?
Yeah, he's like, thanks guys. He says he's ready. He's ready. He says. Okay. You know who else said he's ready?
Monesi.
That's true. He did, and he's fragging. I think it's a big jump for these young lads, right, to go from this like academy stuff to then getting into like a. But where's he going to go as well? You'd assume it'd more likely be a Russian speaking team, right?
Probably, but I mean, if he's in the chat here, he probably speaks decent enough English, True,
so actually.
Maybe there's opportunities out for that guy.
True. Yeah. Well, we were just talking about Orpers before, and that there's a lot of names going around at the moment, so he can speak English. Sure. There you go. See, we got the advertisement for Headtrick on here live.
Yeah. This is how you do it. Just show up here.
Actually, HLTV confirmed, man, for once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's out for looking for offers. So he's on the streets. Valde, where should he join? See, I'll throw you all the good questions. You could just pick any team right now. You go, yeah, you should join this team.
What about Entropic?
That actually is pretty.
Why? He said Alien. It wasn't he meant to be one of the stars? What happened to him?
I don't know. Something not good, like with that whole team.
Yeah, the whole team
like something's up, right? I feel like they were actually playing really great at some point, but seems like they've declined a little bit recently.
And Alien has been shit lately as well.
Yeah, it's been weird. I don't know what's going on there.
There we go. All I want is a jersey. That's it. I'm not even taking 10%. Yeah, not even taking 10% of this transfer.
All right.
But the next one though, this was a free trial. Let's go.
Okay. Well, let's jump in and start talking about EPL here because we can get Valde involved in this. You've been watching the Counter-Strike this last week, Valde, with EPL going on.
Yeah, I caught a few games.
Yeah, I imagine when you're trying to practice, it's a bit difficult to be keeping tabs on all of them here. But EPL started this week, so let's get the fun part out of the way first. Who wants to start? Prof, Strike. I saw you guys making some tweets.
Go Striker.
Do we start with an IP or who do we start with? I
No,
feel like
let's
that's kind
start
of like
with
the
the
base.
tech issues.
Oh, you mean that? Oh, fair enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
only the biggest thing plaguing though. Actually, you know what? Instead of starting with Striker, let's start with this. Lucas, we need the audio for the people at home, and we're not going to be able to hear the audio, guys. So what I want everyone to do is I want everybody right now who's in TeamSpeak to grab that link, to load it up, but don't press play yet. I want Lucas to put that up for everybody, and then when I say play, Lucas is going to play it for everybody at home, and we're going to listen at the same time. Okay?
Okay.
So, you ready, Lucas? It's
Paddle.
called Phil. We're not doing the doggy paddle in the water. We're feeling dead air. There's this
Sorry,
massive
that's
void.
the Danish
Oh,
expression.
Jesus.
Okay,
I'm
is
still working
paddle.
on it.
That's all right. I'm glad that you're working on it. Just like some of these tech issues we're gonna be listening to right now.
Good night, Patrick.
I'm kind of surprised they actually put that up for social media, to be honest.
Have you already
It's
listened
actually
to it,
crazy.
Striker? Don't ruin it for everybody, mate. Hold up a second.
Sorry.
Let's make sure everybody can catch this one in its entirety.
I think you spoiled the plot already with all the talk about the audio delays and stuff like that.
Yeah, but
so
I want
fine.
to give everybody a glaringly obvious example so that.
Yeah.
All right, you ready, Lucas?
Okay. Countdown.
Are you ready, Lucas? Okay, 3, 2, 1, play.
7 kills to his name if they can convert this one and bring it back in their favor. All is forgiven, but he will have to find a 2 versus 1 now. Doesn't look likely. He finds the first kill up against Zywo once again.
Now,
and he pulls it off. He keeps the dream alive.
I don't know
for
if you
Endpoint,
guys
and we go
noticed
15-11. He
what was a little bit off there. But
like 4 seconds off, maybe.
yeah, quite a few seconds off from the actual reactions that we had going down. So yeah, look, this yeah, we're just Henry and I are just that old. We're
Comment in chat. Wow, Henry is really slow.
we're just that slow. So yeah, as everybody who is watching probably realized, there's definitely been a couple of technical issues as far as syncing the audio, which has gotten better as the week has progressed. But then I did see that people were saying that me and Henry were telling the future in certain matches. So we've had a couple of technical doohickeys, and Prof and Striker obviously something that I saw that the two of you noted, and something that I think I've highlighted in the past to you guys, maybe privately, that has been an issue with some of these remote broadcasts.
Yeah.
And I maybe even go as far as saying I even warned certain people that this may happen again. And then it did. So
you were right? How does that feel?
Yeah, it's not often I get to say I told you so. But this one feels nice. No, look,
Does it though?
Does it? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So this is curious. I guess it's probably best for me just to talk about this almost exclusively because of the fact I'm working on the show and I work for ESL a lot. Now, this is not me plugging another podcast that I do, but if people would be interested in listening to me, Yanko, and Jason talking through a lot of the problems, I'm not going to go into the same depth on it here because I'll put half the fucking people to sleep. But if people are interested in listening to some of the shortcomings and issues on that audio only show I do called Talking Counter, we had a chat about it. That was listened to by some people over there at ESL, and pretty much immediately they got me and Jason on the phone to talk about some of the problems that we've been having and some of the things that we've highlighted as issues for some time that has
so essentially you made that podcast just to like leverage your position at ESL.
No, if anything, it's like more dangerous, right? Like by doing that type of stuff, you put yourself in a position where, you know, you go, okay, well, these guys are causing issues and shining the spotlight on us from a negative press standpoint. So you kind of putting yourself in a place where maybe they're unhappy to work with you in the future, right? But this all comes from a place of wanting the show and the product to be better. And we tried to do it from like a civil manner and not just like ranting and raging and stuff, trying to offer actual solutions. But some of it is just like shouldn't be happening, right? And where I was going with this was, yeah, me and Jason were on the phone with some people from ESL yesterday on a Sunday. They took time to have a call with us and have a chat about some of the issues in terms of what's going to be fixed and how it's going to be fixed and whatnot in the future. And the reason why we're just having a bit of a joke before is the production is remote in Katowice, Poland. So that's where they have, for example, Rush the Observer or the cinematic observers are there. The desk is there. The producer is there. The TD, which is the technical director that presses all the buttons between all the different scenes and everything like that. I think the final audio mix happens there. The replay guys who work on the EVS machines, they're all there, right? Whereas we, the commentary team, are here in Malta. The players are here in Malta, and the feed gets sent from here to Katowice. Then we get pumped back, something that we're meant to cast off of, and then the whole thing is syncing that up to avoid all of this delay, which I don't know what people thought of it last night. If it was synced up better or whatnot, I'm not sure.
I feel like it's certainly better than the first day, but you can still see or hear in certain points, literally the caster reacts before the kill happens. And in these situations where it's like, oh my God, who's going to get the kill? When the action gets spoiled by the cast, I feel like that is, if you're paying attention, if you're not really paying attention, then it's fine.
Okay, yeah.
But like, if you're really like in the moment, for me, it just like puts me out of it so much. It's really unbearable. Like it's one of these things that I don't understand how this can be a corner that they decide to be like, yeah, we can risk it. We can maybe cut here to like save on anything, save on content, save on casters, save on whatever, but you can't have this happening. This is literally ruining the most important part, which is the actual game. Like that cannot be a thing where you take a risk. And this is the same thing that happened in Dusseldorf, like maybe not to the same degree because Malta is worse internet wise, I guess. But for me, and this is like 6 weeks. It's not one tournament that's okay, we're done now. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, definitely a few things have slipped through the cracks, right? And you mentioned that there was issues in Dusseldorf. That's true. I think there's been issues consistently since there's been remote production. I can't give you the answer on why the production's remote. That's not something that I'm equipped with the information to tell everybody. That's the choice that they've made for this event.
I mean, that's the choice they've made quite a long time ago for a lot of events, just broadly. Obviously this is they got that new studio in Katowice and all of that stuff, and they did it in order to centralize everything, in terms of broadcasts, even if they have, tournaments happening in different locations, which is not something unheard of in terms of general productions, whether you think about sports or, even other esports like League of Legends apparently works this way as well, where they have a remote broadcast compared to the actual location or like the team actually producing the show, right? So like it is possible to do this well, they just haven't.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think the big concern here for most of us is, okay, let's say it was just bad for EPL. That sucks. That's 5 weeks of Counter-Strike, of top tier teams. That sucks. But at the end of that is the RMR meant to be run with the same setup.
Yeah.
So one of the solutions will be, if the casting audio does not get fixed in the way that they are hoping they're able to fix it, then we will, as the commentary team, likely go to Katowice and commentate it from there, which is kind of just like insane, but it's something that we've done before. Like last year for Cologne, me and Alex commentated Katowice from Cologne and then Cologne from Katowice. I'm not even joking. Like that really like obviously there was some shit to do with COVID and all that type of stuff. But yeah, here's the thing. The reason that this is so bad is because we've just had the stark contrast of Blast, which we were praising for their clean production and how everything's very well themed and tied together. And then you have this going on from ESL, and it doesn't cut it. And they have acknowledged to us when I've spoken to them that it doesn't cut it, and they're doing what they can now to fix it. Now, whether they can fix it or not, I can't tell you that. I can't give you the answer.
We'll
Personally, from my perspective, I very much think midway through this week, I'll be on an airplane from my home in Malta to Katowice. But even that, right, even if we do that, it won't fix, like you guys probably notice on the player cams, like here's the thing. I can only see the player cams when I watch at home like the rest of you guys. When I'm doing my job, I can't physically see the player cams. So I don't know the player reaction. An example of this was, you guys would have seen when Simple got the kill with the AWP and he was scratching his eye on Mirage.
Yeah.
Harry and Hugo were casting that, but they couldn't have physically seen that live because they can't see the cam. And those cams like desync a lot, and they hang on the wrong player or they show the wrong player. I don't think that stuff will change with the commentary team in Katowice at all. Just our delay should be fixed, but those things will still be an issue. Players cheering and potentially spoiling, that comes down to them syncing it up. But this is the thing, right? Remote broadcast, from my understanding, probably not dealing with stuff as precise as Counter-Strike, where things are literally down to the millisecond. I'm not making excuses for them by any means, right? I don't think that the production should be in Katowice. If I'm going to give you my complete honest opinion, I think it should always be on site where the event is. But yeah, that stuff I think will always have an issue because the internet desyncs. The internet is not consistent. We don't live in fucking the year 3022 where the internet is just this stable line and never has a hiccup and it never desyncs. It's going to happen. And I live in Malta, and I can tell you that the internet is definitely not the most stable thing in the world. Anyway, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Well, we got to get through this, Valde, because if we don't, then people are going to come out and say like, I'm an ESL shill and I don't talk about the problems.
I mean,
right? So I have to air this, and now we can move on to other things.
I think just to add like one small bit, which I feel like maybe I should put it out, maybe should not, but there is also, the production has been bad, not only for that, but like in terms of, for example, there was an interview with NIP that I tweeted about, where there's a big thing about like the opping, and I'm like, the interview started halfway through on the broadcast and didn't cover that part. That part was cut out, which is the most important part, like what is going on. And we're talking about EPL. I don't really care that much about EPL. I don't feel most people do, but the RMR is coming up next. And like, for me, it is you cannot have a major qualifier not be covered properly if we don't get the storylines, we don't get the interviews and all of these reactions properly on the broadcast. You're taking away from everyone's enjoyment from the major, building up to the major, you know, these things. And we don't even know if we are going to be able, like, if press is going to be able to get into the actual studio to do interviews there. That is like a question mark at this moment, and we are like a couple of weeks out. For me, that's unacceptable in itself, regardless of whatever the fuck their setup is and the production is good. But especially if the production is bad, not having other people be there so they can take photos, videos, do interviews, then that's like even a bigger problem. So I don't know what they're doing. For me, this is like, it's a complete shit show from ESL. This whole event so far. So hopefully they can
really
turn it
drop
around.
The ball. They more than dropped the ball on this one.
Now we can talk about CS.
Okay, let's get into the Counter-Strike talk. Okay, so there's a man named Spinks who's in Vitality now, and they look pretty good, Valde. Were your teammates watching along, watching Spinks? Were they cheering for him, or were they like, fuck this guy, we want him to lose? How was it going with the Spinks? Don't pretend you're asleep. I saw you just moving.
I was sleeping.
I saw you just... look, we're not doing it. They're not acting here, mate. We can get you in a movie. You definitely look like you can be in a movie, but were your teammates watching Spinks play?
Yeah, we did watch a couple of games.
What'd you make of Vitality? Because this is a hard one to talk about, right? It's like your team's ex-girlfriend. You know, you're talking about your team's ex here, so it's a little bit weird.
With a new boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A shiny little Zywa on his arm.
All good for me. Like, I think they looked way better compared to the other tournaments, to be honest. And obviously, I think Spinks is a big part of the reason why. I think he's a great player to add to Vitality because, like, he basically makes minimal to no mistakes. He's always good for like 1 or 2 kills, plays pretty smart. From what I heard, he also has like pretty clean comms. You know, he doesn't give too much info. And I think if communication was a problem on that team, I think overall, you know, he's a great fit, not only role-wise, but just like for the team overall, I think. So yeah, I think they look pretty good so far.
Yeah, Zywa had a great tournament. I did my fantasy team. I was really happy about that. They topped the group, for those who weren't watching how things went down for EPL or couldn't watch. Maybe we should put it that way a little bit more so. But Vitality ended up topping the group there. They 2-0'd Endpoint, 2-0'd NIP. They lost a map to fnatic, lost a map to NAVI, and then ended up 2-0'ing Spirit. I think the NAVI victory was quite a big one, Striker. The fact that they had that, 10 series loss streak to NAVI to get that monkey.
I mean, that was a different core to be fair, but still, yeah, their first win. That was a different core. A lot of that streak was a different team basically.
It was basically Apex though. It was
just Apex and Zywa were like in the team throughout that entire streak. I think it's like three series this year.
Okay,
since they made that change, so obviously not as big as as it would be. But it was still a big storyline, obviously, because kind of everybody expected Navi to turn up in decent form, and obviously that didn't happen. I suppose that contributed to this loss as well. But overall, the way I look at Spinks is just that he's just so much more reliable than Masuda. He's just always like in every position that
It's
he is
an
in.
unfair comparison in a way, isn't it?
It
Poor
just is,
Masuda.
right? It's like that's the problem. Like it's just you can't really match up to a guy like Spinks, who's been basically like a top 10 player this year, right? Like it's not a reasonable comparison. But that's just what you see, right? Like if you look at like some of the rounds that he did, like first of all, he just has a much more consistent output. Like when he is in a position, like he'll usually get a kill, and then he has those moments where he just gets three. Like he was like alone against three on Banana or something. I think it was the Vitality series, even the Navi series, even where he was just alone on Banana and he gets 4 kills. It's just like some of these moments where Vitality would not have had those rounds with Masuda before, because Spinks is just that good. He's capable of turning like singular rounds around, and that's enough for them to get a little bit more of a build up and have more of a chance, right? Like it's not just about stats; it's just about him being reliable, right?
Sure. Well, it's definitely the star duo of the team now, right? Zyro was number 1, Spinks was number 2 for the group as far as the stats went, right? So it's great to see Zyro in that form. We always love to watch the game getting up to this kind of madness, and having Spinks there also contributing shows that Vitality have this like next gear that they can get into, because we're not even talking about Magisk or Dupree, and Apex even had a couple of good games, right? So they can all definitely have their moments to shine right here. Prof, is this now a team that is on the radar to contend? I know it's a group stage win against NAVI, but do you think we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, so for the FaZe NAVI plus who battle, is Vitality seeming like they're going to be in that mix to you now?
Definitely on the radar for that. Like we need to see them like do more, get into playoffs, win tournaments, stuff like that. But for how they played, definitely the most promising team we have right now, maybe alongside Liquid. Liquid could maybe be a team that's very exciting. But we knew Vitality was the team that operated the most in the off season, so it makes sense that they are going to be a team that is going to be like getting closer to the FaZe and Navi, right?
Yeah.
And especially, we're not going to talk about Navi directly, but like whatever the fuck happened for them this event, they're pretty good. Even Apex had a pretty rough blast tournament, but he stepped up here. He had some great games individually, so that's also a nice bonus for them, or maybe not a bonus, but kind of returning to where he should be. And it makes sense because he changed a few positions, so he would need some time to adapt.
Sure, and he's micromanaging other people.
Yeah, and he's adding new stuff and trying to adapt all of that. So I feel like pretty good signs. And I mean, I was excited about this Vitality lineup when it came together. Not many people were, but like I was excited, and I was very disappointed from what I saw. Now this is more of what I expected to see from the players that were there, right?
Sure. Valde, when you look at this team, right, we're talking about the status quo being like the FaZe and Navi just locking up those top spots. Is that kind of the sentiment from the players as well, right? Are you thinking, okay, these are the 2 top dogs, or is there anybody else at the moment who you'd think now they could easily compete with these guys on any given day?
I think those are probably the main 2 teams for the moment. I think like all the rest needs to show something.
Okay. Do you think this is enough from Vitality to show, or do we need to see something in a bit more of like a playoff environment here? Because the runway now into the RMR, into the major, like it's all going to happen pretty quick. They get 3 weeks off, they play the playoffs, they go into the RMR. Like how are we meant to gauge these teams? It's kind of hard at the moment.
Yeah, it is. I agree, but also I want to say like it is still post player break.
Okay.
Like it's the first couple of tournaments. I think a team like Navi, didn't look like themselves at this tournament, for example. So I still think you need to see a couple of more lands, and then probably teams should be in like their final form when you get to the RMR and the major. So I think that's where the real test is going to be, in my opinion, at least.
So you think that just people like with the roster changes still getting into the new flow of the teams, or maybe even players just getting back into the flow of playing, or do you think that everybody is intentionally trying to aim their peaks for the major and just taking it a bit more slow and steady in the early stages? Like, what do you think is the best option for a lot of these teams? And well, I guess I won't ask from an ENCE perspective, because I don't know if you tell us what the player is going to be there. But like this ramp up is something that hasn't really been refined before, I don't think.
I think it's also a thing that's hard to gauge, like what teams are actually doing. But I think
Sure.
obviously, like in the back of people's minds, everybody knows that the major is the most important thing, right? So it's not that you're like fucking like when you say it like that, it seems like people are not really playing too serious, or maybe not using the strats, like the best strats or whatever. Like I don't think that's the case. I just think that you know, I think a team like Navi or Vitality or whatever, it doesn't matter if they're first in the group or third in the group. I just think that getting to playoff is the most important thing. But obviously you want to have your best form going into the major, right? So I think it is like sort of a build-up tournament. And then obviously like getting to the playoff at last and at Pro League, for example, is important, right? Because it gives a lot of like match form, I think, for the different
and
teams.
points
Yeah.
on the blast ranking if you ask Snappi about it.
And that, yeah.
I
Are you
think
guys
it's
going to
also
play in the qualifier for the
Don't even
qualifier?
get him
For
started
the
on that, bro.
qualifier? Are you guys playing in the qualifier for the qualifier for the qualifier?
Maybe we're playing in the qualifier for the qualifier for the qualifier that qualifies you to the qualifier that then, yeah, I don't fucking know, man.
So we might see
That-
ENCE the showdown.
No,
is
they-
what-
but it is what happened again. They are like two steps away from the actual showdown, which is
I
kind of
don't,
crazy
I don't
for a
even
team
want
like
to look
ENCE.
into how it works, man. I don't
I
want to
think-
have
I
my
think
mind
No,
on it.
there's like
I think you need to
qualifier-
get Snappi on the show just for this. Like
I mean,
2
we
hour
already
talk
did.
about
We already did.
I'm sure he'd love to come on again. We just get him on. We have Snappy's Corner. He comes on every week and he just talks about the
Talk
next
to our
thing.
shit last week.
We should just we should call him up just right now. It's like, oh, let's hear what Snappi has to say about this, and just have like
Here's
a 5-minute
Snappi.
rant,
Here's
and then
Snappi
just
on
like
the
hangs
sidelines.
up without saying bye, just like blah 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 blah. Boom, and you see toot 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 toot.
Yeah, I'm
and,
with it.
that's
Yeah. Maybe we look into having a snappy segment here. And there's no pun intended there. Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
I just wanted to talk about the ramp up, right? Like this,
Yeah.
the thing, how people should look at it is more like, before a major, people won't just start trying new things, but before the
Sure.
major, they will just set things as they believe they're the best, and they're not going to take any like massive risks. They're also going to play the most in before, as both as a team and as individuals, like DM and all this stuff. But before EPL group, obviously, there's a lot of refinement to still be done after the player break. Maybe they haven't really put in the maximum amount of hours that they can, because you still kind of have to conserve energy over like several months at a time, and make sure to prioritize the right things. So that's kind of how people should look at it. Not that they don't give a shit. It's just the major is so much more important that you're willing to put that extra time in to be more ready. So that's kind of like the mindset, I think, for a lot of teams.
Sure. Okay. Should we jump in and talk a little bit about what happened with Nip and Navi here? Let's well, first of all, Navi got through with a scoreline of 2-3. Do you want to do a little bit of explaining of this striker for people? Because I know you love your spreadsheets.
I mean,
it was real messy there on the last day.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately we didn't get to the worst scenario where we would have 5 teams and 2 wins, and just 2 of them would go through.
Was that destination
fucked? Yeah, that's the one. I like that this is just becoming a term. I just obviously I stole it from the Aussie guy who does like reviews on YouTube and stuff like that. That's destination fucked. That's where it comes from. So credit to him. I didn't come up with it, but it's perfectly fitting for this situation. Anyway, I mean, the reason Navi got through was just the map difference in that 3-way tie, right? Like they took wins off of each other, which means it went to map difference between each other where Navi had the upper hand. So that's why they were the ones to go through over Spirit and NIP. That's about as much as it goes to. Like a lot of people think it's round difference, but it actually doesn't matter whatsoever.
Do you actually feel like it's a good thing that it's still this advanced in some cases where you actually need somebody to actually explain it in detail like this for people to understand it? Like, do you think it's like optimal?
I think not, because like we would be in a much better position if these ties were just solved by actual matches. Because then, you don't have to care about like whatever, like what teams beat each other. Sure, like the head-to-head should probably still be first. But, if it ends up where those 3 teams beat each other, like then you might as well, like you have 2 extra days between groups, right? So you should have the time to be able to play those tiebreakers if you need them, just
How
use
would we
one of
do
those
this?
days.
Best of ones, best of threes? Like
we could just do best of ones, to be honest. At that point, like it's not obvious that they were better than everybody else, so you might as well just do it a little bit more risky, in that scenario where you just don't have to spend as much time trying to break those ties. So, it's better than using, a result from the match that happened in the first round where you didn't know this even mattered at that time, that type of stuff. I just don't like that, and also the fact that it's just complicated for fans to understand in the first place.
So would it? Let's just let's like live in a world where we're solving problems for a second here. That's always a fun place to be. So if we would have to draw a cutoff at some point, right? So like head to head is probably the one, because a lot of people probably don't understand how all the tiebreaker rules start to happen, right, Striker? But eventually it happens where you go down to like the mini group, right, of the teams who are tied, and then it works out between that mini group who beat who and all that different kind of shit. But I guess what you're suggesting here is after we get past, okay, well, if on head to head we still can't separate these teams because it's scissor paper rock, right, or whatever the fuck it is.
Right.
Then we go, these three teams play each other in like, it's almost like a king of the hill type thing. So let's say Navi start first and then they play against against Spirit. And then if they beat Spirit, then NIP come on. But if NIP beat Navi, then Spirit jump in.
Yeah.
Like that type of
basically until somebody gets 2 wins, right? Against
it's like
the other two
penalty
two
shootout
teams, essentially.
type, best of one.
Yeah. I mean, the reason why I'm kind of confused that ESL haven't started doing this yet, especially now that the system is in place where you have 5 days for a group, 2 days off, 5 days for a group, 2 days off, right? Where you actually have the time. Like obviously, maybe you don't want to spend the broadcast days, whatever it is that the reason is why they wouldn't do rematches.
You could also
run that
do
game earlier.
Yeah, the last game earlier in the day.
Because it started at 7:30. We could run it. We could run it at like. We could run it at like 2
4
p.m.
or something, or like 3. Yeah.
But even it's a Sunday. Like it's not. It like people watch sports any time of the day on a Sunday, right? I would go watch a football game in the middle of the day on a Sunday as opposed to a Sunday night, because Sunday night I go to bed early because I got to get up at 6 a.m. and drive my fucking truck and be a plumber.
Honestly.
Right? So that might be a better suggestion.
This would even kind of increase the excitement, just because the last round a lot of the time is just useless. But like in these scenarios, it would actually create even more excitement. Than now you have to play for actual spots. It's not like you just play a match that like puts you in the table, or like puts you a W or an L into the table. Once teams are tied, like this creates an entire new dynamic to their group, right? Like you actually have to play for advancement directly, not that you just play for points. So that's kind of why I'm kind of confused about that this hasn't even been attempted to introduce now that the schedule actually allows for it.
Now, there's obviously a lot of different variations that would happen here. If we had like a 4-team tie or whatever, it would have to be like, well, I guess it could still be the same thing, but it would take a lot more time.
Well, 14 ties are broken by head-to-head, so that makes it easier a little bit, at least until there's 3. Like that's at least the lowest that they can solve.
So 3 is doable. Would you prefer this Valde as a player? Would you prefer it to be the fact that you like would have to play, even if you did all the best of 3s in the group, you ended up on you ended up tied with other teams, you couldn't break it with head-to-head. Instead, you do a king of the hill type best of 1 situation. Would you prefer that than having it decided by like map difference or that type of shit?
Like maybe I don't really have a clear answer, to be honest. Like I'm not a format expert. I just know that I think sometimes things get too complicated, and I hate it when you have these like useless games, as you mentioned before, that doesn't mean anything. I think that's like the worst. Like both as a player, but also as a viewer, Like watching a game that doesn't mean anything is like pointless in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean this NAVI and this NIP win over NAVI is not even legit, because NAVI knew they were through after the second map. They just knew they were through.
I think
so
that's like a
matter.
horrible format, to be honest.
Yeah,
like having the useless games.
So how would that stack up differently there in that circumstance, Striker? Right?
Like I mean, Navi would just have to win that game, not to avoid those decider matches, right? Like for actual advancement.
Well,
they would actually have to care about the last. What's
right? 3 teams were tied.
They would still be
even
tied,
if
and
they
then
lost
they would
that
play
series,
the rematches at that point. Yeah,
but they would be more incentivized to win the whole series, so they didn't have to play the rematches.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's already better within itself. I think this is the thing, right? This format, a couple of things need to be taken into consideration, because I've been thinking about this myself. What would a good solution be? And like straight away, it's like I would probably prefer a double elimination best of 3 bracket, and we up it to 8 teams per group. But the issue is, because this is a partner league event, these teams who are partners want to have exposure over all 5 days, right? This is something that the teams want to be a partner team. So to have a format where they could get the exposure over all 5 days, that's when you get a blast format, right? Where it's a little bit more of like a loop-de-loo type. You go back around, you do just so they get that exposure. So at least with the round robin, it's a format that people should be familiar with more traditional sports like World Cup with football, for example. But then we still do have that problem at the tail end, which you mentioned, Valde, dead games, which really mean nothing. But we need to come up with a solution so that we avoid things being like, well, because we did Pythagoras's fucking theorem and Striker calculated that, 3 degrees north, whatever the fuck, right? It is, okay, now we have a last chance. These 3 teams play against each other in best of 1s, veto down to the map, a bit of excitement, right? That would be the solution right there. So that feels like it could actually be good.
I mean, it is an easy, like, it's not a complete solution to round robin, because you're still going to have useless games where, like, you know, the first team plays against the last one, where
Vitality in this case.
Well, Vitality Spirit still had something to play for, but there could be cases where both teams don't give a shit. But it's actually worse when only one of them gives a shit. That's like competitively and integrity wise, it's just worse. Because why do you have matches that are imbalanced, right? Where Vitality already don't give a shit about winning this series because they're already first, no matter what else happens. While Spirit just play for their lives, right? Like, obviously in this case, Vitality still won, so there's no questioning about like whether Vitality just didn't give a shit about that game. And that's why Spirit won, and that's why Spirit qualified. Blah blah blah, all this stuff. But it's still this still happens like nearly every time a round robin group is played, where there's just one match that doesn't matter whatsoever, or worse, multiple, or even worse, there were just half of the teams care. So it's just there would just be a partial solution to the whole entire round robin problem, but at least it would be the biggest one that would actually make the most impact.
Sure. Someone in chat just mentioned prize money associated to wins. They already do. It's $5,000.
Nobody cares about that though. Like Valde can speak to this. Like, you don't give a shit that at the end if you get 5K per team at the end of a group, right?
Yeah, like that's not the difference maker.
There you go. Like, it would have to be a lot of money for teams to care, and even then, it's not competitive, you know. So
yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah, so that I think the thing is, it's just it definitely could use some refinement. It's just those factors you have to keep in mind of like how can you complement what they're looking for with the partner teams, right? And that is the issue of having these partner teams, is we can't just have what would be the most competitively viable format, right?
Also, the most competitive teams, you know, on paper and stuff like that a lot of the time, you know. But ESL, it's obviously better than with Blast, but just in general.
Okay. We haven't spoken about Navi or NIP in great detail here. Let's start with Navi. I don't know what you thought about their run. It started well, and then it started to look like all sorts. Like there was a bit more of the classic Navi that we're used to from the Zeus days, where everybody's kind of looking at each other like, what the fuck was that? Felt like there was more than a few issues going on. Bit felt like a bit of a non-issue. Like, didn't feel like he was really in the server doing the normal Bit things. Simple was relatively quiet for his standards. Like, I think at one point Perfecto was the highest rated player for Navi after the first couple of games. It just didn't look like the Navi that we have grown to know and love. Do we think this is a symptom, Valde, of maybe the fact that it's a group stage and the format, or do you think maybe there's something else going on there?
In terms of Navi, I actually think there could be like many different cases. First of all, it could just be that they had like an off tournament. You know, it happens to everybody where, you know, people are not playing at their usual level. I also do want to say that I was actually surprised by Navi at the latest tournaments, you know, that considering that, first of all, they have sort of like a stand-in or a new fifth player, but also like Electronic is in-game leading. I actually think a lot of people forgot about this because they were actually still playing really well in terms of those changes. And it's not just anybody who's not on the team anymore. You know, it's like literally the in-game leader. Usually when you change the in-game leader, a lot of stuff is gonna change. In terms of Simple, for example, I think that's not really a Navi issue. That's more of like a Simple issue. You know, the fact that he has like 1.11 rating, and we consider that like really bad. Like, I don't think that's like a Navi issue. I just think it's not normal for Simple to have this kind of level.
I was looking at his event ratings, and not 100% sure, but pretty sure that this is his second worst event since 2018. Like 27, maybe even 2017 included. Like, his first couple of events on Navi were maybe shaky. Some of them were not great.
Yeah.
But after like the first 3 or 6 months, he posted consistently 1.20 ratings. There's the Blast Moscow event, which was a completely not important event. This was when Zeus was going out. This is a kind of farewell event. That was like a 106. And this is also when they lost like 3 games in the row the last time, which they now repeated, even though it was a pointless game, the last one. And I think Blast was similar, actually. So this is that's the level of how weird this is to see Simple play like this.
That was kind of what I meant. Like, I'm pretty sure he'll bounce back, but also like, I don't know how much this whole situation in Ukraine, for example, is also affecting the Navi team and Simple in particular. You know, I heard a lot of stuff about like him moving to a different country, like all this stress in terms of like the traveling, just the overall life situation. I think people maybe underestimate how much that actually means for your mental state as a player, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like totally giving him a free pass, and let's see if he doesn't bounce back at the next tournament. Like if I know him right, he's probably gonna play twice as much, and then yeah, he's gonna be in top shape for the next tournament. Let's see.
Well, they're in the playoffs still, right? So they're able to at least squeak that through. So, like, job done as far as qualifying for the playoffs go. Kind of the same thing as when we look at Blast, right? Like G2 squeaking past Vitality in that rematch. Yeah, job done. You know, like maybe it wasn't the prettiest Counter-Strike, but they're there, right? So same kind of thing for NAVI. But I like there's just a couple of moments where they looked a bit lost, like maybe communication or there were expectations for certain things. Like when they lost that eco round to Vitality on Overpass, I was like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
When do you ever see Navi like losing the Glocks and shit? Like that doesn't feel like it happens too often. That was a very perplexing like round, and that kind of summarized a lot of the issues they were having. Like Bit, for example, like just his pathing on Overpass, he was just walking into Spinks and Zoe were holding A and just getting picked off. No utility, nothing, just like dry walking across front of Fountain, just getting wrecked. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I don't know. And there was like a lot of, looked like on the cams, a lot more of like Blade talking to players like one-on-one, like going up to the end and like talking just to Perfecto and coming up the other end and talking just a bit and stuff. So I don't know.
I mean, Electronic also had a terrible series in that, so it might have contributed to calling and stuff like that. It seemed like he was just off in that series specifically. I mean, generally across the entire group, but that series particularly, I was looking at him and it just seemed like also like not mindset wise, but just emotionally, it felt like the team was a bit, probably angry at each other a little bit like strong, yeah. And that's kind of why I thought they lost the Vitality game.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like, no harm, no foul. The fact that they didn't get knocked out, right? They still get an opportunity to fight for that title. It's all good. They have 3 weeks of practice now. So I guess for the Navi conversation, we can like put a pin in it and we can return to it with seeing how they play in the playoffs. But NIP, on the other hand, they didn't make it to the playoffs, and they looked rough from the outset of this. Now, those who weren't too familiar, Hampus lost his luggage on the way through. It didn't get delivered on time. He's quite particular with his gear. He's been using the same mousepad for like 2 years, he was telling me. So also in Malta, to get certain things like the exact model of keyboard you have and everything like that, Malta doesn't have too many tech stores. So keep that in mind, Valde. I know that you seem like a sensible man who probably packs his peripherals in his carry-on. But yeah, keep that in mind. So Hampus had a couple of those issues early.
Just context, Hampus 0.78 rating. This is the guy that we say like fragging IGL. So this is even though since Brolin came in, I feel like he hasn't been that impactful individually. Like he dipped off a bit since that, but this was shocking to watch. Like the context that you gave helped me understand, but like watching him play, it was like
some of the moments were fucking actually horrible. Like I was like, how is this a pro player playing at this at some point? So I can see how like all of that contributed to like his mentality and stuff like that, and him just being super out of confidence and all that stuff. And that's why he just played like shit for like the first 3 series in particular. But just it was weird to watch some of those games, honestly, from an IP's point of view.
I think one of the things is the story with NIP, at least from our end for the longest time, was, oh, they're playing with LNZ, they're playing with Fozy, they're playing with ZTR. We don't expect this team to do anything. And then they end up qualifying or doing whatever they had to do at whatever event they're at, right? And we're like, oh, NIP, they're doing it without it. Hampus is owning everybody, Rez is chiming. And then they get Brolin, and now our level of expectation is much higher of the team. But one of the things that kind of changed in the last 2 days of play when things were going quite miserably was Rez is now, or was, the AWPer. Rez took over the AWPing duties. We noticed Henry and I were casting on Vertigo in the second round of the game. Rez didn't buy anything and the rest of the team force bought. And we're like, okay, well, this could be pretty telling. And then the first gun round rolls around and Rez has a fucking AWP in his hand. Now, I don't know what that says, but, you know, it's pretty... It shows that things aren't working, right, Valde, if a team is shaking up who the main AWPer is in the middle of a group stage, right?
Yeah, 100%. I fully agree on that. I don't know. NIP is a team for me which feels like they're a little bit stuck. Like I think getting Brolin was like really good for them, But in my opinion, I think they need a double roster change, to be honest. Like, I don't
Okay.
want to sit here and name names, you know, obviously
Forest and
it's
who?
that obviously it's their team, they can do what they want, but I 100% think they should get like a primary AWPer. I think that's such an integral part of any team. You know, the AWPer is usually the difference maker. He can take over a game by himself. So I really think they need a new primary AWPer. I don't know. I was thinking about Draken, but obviously I have no idea about personalities and stuff. But
He could come back. He's on
like,
a redemption arc at the moment.
yeah, like no
He
shit. Like
won a LAN event.
again, like I have no idea about who likes who, all the interpersonal issues. I'm not gonna interfere in that stuff, but yeah, I think they should get a primary AWPer and then they should change one more.
Okay. Yeah, I think probably a lot of people kind of have that general sentiment. But one of the keys for this team was like since DGL came in and you know they added Brolin. Well, maybe not when they added Brolin, but before that, it always felt like NIP had these like T sides that they could grind out, or they had some cool like approaches and whatnot. But here, their T sides were like absolutely abysmal. Now you could definitely play that in with the situation for Hampus, right? Like if the in-game leader is mega uncomfortable and he's the one calling the T sides, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You can see how that would have been the case. But
And also finding openings, like making plays, like that's also his role.
there was one thing that was crazy, like it was the utility damage on the T side, right? I think it was, and it wasn't very high at all. I think it was like this was like 3 days into the event or something. It was like they do 3 average utility damage around, and then you compared that to Navi, whose was like 5 times more than, and they were the second lowest of the tournament, and they were doing 5 times more that amount of like utility damage or something. That was one of the stat lines that got presented to me, and I was like, this is like utility damage T side, never usually a huge thing, but when you're comparing it to the second lowest and it's 5 times more, and then you're looking at like the 5v4 rounds they aren't winning and the 4v5, and it's like, holy shit, like this is really quite miserable. And I understand that they make that change, they come in and they win those matches, and Rez looks good on the AWP, and people are like, yeah, Rez can AWP, but that's a real conversation to have. Prof, do you think Rez can AWP? Like, is this because he could do it? There's no reason that he couldn't decide, okay, I want to be a full-time AWPer, right? Why couldn't he? I'm just curious, like, is there any objection to that? We know it's going to, like, you could say it's going to take time, or he needs to, you know, work hard at it. But is there any party that goes, yeah, actually, you know, Rez could be an AWPer, or nah, this isn't going to work, you should say a rifle? Like, I don't really know how I feel about it.
It's an interesting prospect, especially because there are no Swedish operas that really jump off the page, and you have to think like, oh, we should pick this. So converting a rifler into an opera isn't that bad of an idea. I feel like Rez, I mean, he's been super giga inconsistent for the last 5 years now.
Does the team though, so I'll give him a
there are a
pass.
lot of changes, but like when you think of him, you think of like the taps and like those
Sure.
highlight moments. You feel like he has that like something on the rifle that should be, that you should keep him rifling. That's how I feel about it. Yeah,
I feel like he's exactly like a guy like Config, where
Okay.
having him as a rifler is definitely makes the most sense, but I do think he can be a really good secondary AWP.
Yeah,
know,
we've seen him do
like-
a bit
He's
of
been
that.
done that.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
been
like-
doing that, yeah.
On the maps where it makes sense, or on the spots where it makes sense, he can pick up the secondary AWP, but I think he's like too good of a rifler. And yeah, also I do also think it is challenging switching to the AWP full time when you played as a rifle for that long. Like, you need to change your whole play style in terms of learning what angles to hold. You know, when the team is running, you need to sort of cover certain angles, all the stuff like this. So especially when you're like an aggro rifler, I think it takes a lot of getting used to playing the main AWP. So
Yeah.
in my opinion, I think that's a no-go for me. I would much rather have him like secondary open when he's like feeling it.
I think it was Get who used this term, like hobby AWPer. I could be wrong, right? But like we would just call it like secondary AWPer, right? Like, but
Yeah.
like the same kind of thing. And that sentiment of like hobby AWPer, that's when you get to pick it up when nobody's really looking. You get to go for your kind of like cheeky little peeks, and no one's studying your tendencies and shit. But as soon as like you're an AWPer, you're one of the most studied like players in the game. Like, people are looking for the type of peaks that you like, the angles you hold, like where to flash. So to do it full time is a whole different story. But I'd be interested to see if he wants to pursue it, because like, who are NIP going to be looking at as an AWPer? We mentioned Draken, right? Well, I guess we could mention Nork. There's probably a bunch of names, but are any of them really
people
blowing
said
our socks off?
Halzer,
Right?
but he
Fletchley
just
now.
signed a new contract. So
Yeah. And we're talking about NIP needing to make some changes. Well, we also know that maybe that won't happen either. So if this is the check, because Essetag gets like a pretty bung rap, I think, but he will literally do anything. Like I've seen this guy over most of the teams he's been in. He will just fill whatever role the team requires of him. It seems like one of the most, like the least selfish players I've seen. He'll just do whatever is needed of him. And, you know, maybe that's not the recipe to success necessarily, but he's always looked at as a more supportive element. If they feel that it's better to have him as a, you know, a go-between or a side anchor, or him doing the secondary AWPing or whatever, then I guess we just have to wait and see. But it always feels like this was an IP. It's like, well, I guess now we got to wait and see what comes out of this new change, right? And we're back here again.
I think we just need to give them, one more event in terms of like somewhere where
What's the
campus
RMR?
isn't. No, but you can't do anything else, right? I think you just need to give him an event where campus is going to be like a 0.9 rated player at least, and then see how things develop, and then we can talk. Yeah, but there's not going to be any changes. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, there's just nothing obvious, you know, unless fucking magically Device comes back and realizes he actually wants to play for an IP. I don't see a way out for an IP until, at least not until somebody else comes along.
Bro,
you know,
it's
and that's
such
not
a
going to happen
waste,
until the
man.
major. Yeah.
I'm just upset again. Like Rez, Brolin, Campus, Device. This is a fucking great team. Why can't we have nice things? Why can't we have nice things, Chad? Chad, tell me this. Explain.
If we could have Device and Forest on an IP, wouldn't it? Imagine. What
imagine
would it
the
take?
marketing of that team.
How would we make that happen?
Forest wouldn't fit in that at that point anymore, I think.
Well, just put him in there anyway, man. Don't worry. We'll work it out afterwards. We always tend to.
You might as well just put Crims in there. Like that's a much better fit, right?
Let's yeah, well, you got to get him out of Fnatic, which is our next topic. Great little segue there, Striker. Fnatic here, they made it. They actually qualified for the playoffs. Now, last season when Fnatic qualified for the playoffs, their team was dogs bollocks. This team, I like the look of. I like the look of this Fnatic. You know, Fasher coming in, he's already fucking swinging his big dick around. He played pretty well. They were a fun team to watch. I enjoyed watching the type of Counter-Strike this team was running with. But it's still the big question mark for me of how Mezzi is going to develop as an in-game leader. I feel that is probably going to be the question for a while, right? It's something that people have to grow into. But the pieces of this team, I feel like they're all on the same page. You have 4 guys on this team who are all hungry to be like one of the best Counter-Strike teams in the world, right? And then you have Crims, who's already done it as an anchor player and maybe the experienced guy who he's always seems like pretty cool. So this mixture of players with what they've got here under the Fnatic banner, it feels like it could be an exciting prospect. Am I maybe overblowing this a bit, Striker? Do you think maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself? It was fun to watch.
No, I think they are just a team that doesn't seem to have at least an individual weakness. Like, sure, sometimes you know, players will not have the greatest map or maybe one series, but usually they will come back in the next one. I think Fasher was kind of like the best example of that almost, because he had like I think the Navi series, he just kind of didn't really turn up much, but then before that, he was pretty much the reason why they beat NIP so convincingly. And, you know, they just have 5 strong individual players, and that's kind of what I've been pushing for a bit since I saw this Fnatic lineup, right?
If your AWP is the lowest rated player though, and you get through the group, if Nikodos becomes like one of the highest rated players, right, and the AWP is finding a lot more impact, and you have all there's so many handy riflers on the team.
Yeah,
like you throw a lot of these guys into the good for 2 category. You know, like they feel like they have a lot of output as far as the multi kills going in the team.
They are pretty explosive for sure. Like if you look at especially Roy and Fasher, I think that combo is actually kind of interesting now. Like I did enjoy them just working around the map, looking for picks all the time and stuff. Like they are just really exciting players to watch.
What was your take on the look of Fnatic, Prof? Obviously not the first look they qualified for the RMR, but the first against maybe some of the bigger field.
I don't know. Like pretty good overall. Like surprising that they made it to the playoffs. Like wasn't completely out of questions, but again, not really what we expected. Definitely not me. So yeah, pretty good. I don't know. Nothing super special to point out. Honestly, I was curious about Valde's thoughts on a couple of Danes there. So what do you think of them?
I agree with what Chad said in the beginning. I think they have a really good individual team, and if they can be on the same page, I think they can be like a dangerous team. I still think we need to see Messi, have a couple of tournaments as in-game leader. I think it takes a lot of getting used to. So I feel like we need to see them play more tournaments where there is maybe more pressure as well. But I did enjoy them, and I think they're like a team on the rise. I think they made some good signings.
Is this a team that you guys have like practiced against, seeing as they're not in your group?
Actually not. We haven't played them.
Okay, all right. Trying to get some intel there.
Yeah,
Fair
you're
enough.
still fishing.
Yeah, no. Well, I
Fishing all
want
day.
to know, because this is the thing, right? If we get like a big picture of how everybody went against it, we could start like painting a picture here of how it's all going to unfold. But I think this Fnatic roster is maybe worthy of the Fnatic name, right? Like that. That's one of the things that I think, like, Fnatic's the mainstay organization in Counter Strike. Hopefully they can get themselves back into the major circuit. Hopefully they can get themselves, some good results, because I think that this group of individuals, like I mentioned, are all kind of in the same mindset. Like they're all kind of at that similar point in their careers of wanting to be one of the best teams in the world. So curious to see how they go. Okay, who else do we have here? Spirit and Endpoint. I just want to say, like, on the broader scale, we can just have some cliff notes for these guys here as we move into just quick looking at Group B. But I think that the macro game, like the bigger picture from both Spirit and Endpoint, is great. Like there's lots of stuff that those teams do in terms of the map control that they were taking, the way that they were, doing certain strategies or rotating around the map. Like Endpoint were out positioning some of their opponents. It didn't start great for them, the tournament, but as they went forward, they had some decent wins and some maybe confidence building wins. I want to, bit of shout out for Nertz. He was a good, definitely a good piece of the puzzle there. Probably going to be not too long before he gets purchased up. And then Spirit, yeah, look, I'd like seeing more from Wonderful. I think, okay, he's growing into the tier 1 Counter-Strike. I like some of the games that Spirit had. A little bit unfortunate they didn't make it to the playoffs, but not everybody can. I liked a couple of little details that were going on. That's about it for me with those guys. Did you guys have much?
No, not particularly.
No.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I'm kind of happy with Spits, at least the individuals, and Wonderful being okay.
Siren had some really good moments, I thought.
Yeah, like all of them essentially. Like Patsy also had some great moments, doing his like crazy aggressive things, then also kind of throwing away some advantages sometimes. But like that's kind of what you sign up for, right?
Yep.
But I like Wonderful. He's been doing pretty well, so I'm happy about that.
Okay. All right. Well, let's use Valde while we've got him and jump into talking about Group B here. Lucas, I'm going to get you the little link and you can bring the group up for everybody playing at home. But this is going to be kicking off on Wednesday for Group B of ESL Pro League. Here's the link. So in Group B, we have FaZe, G2 Big, Outsiders, MIBR, and FTW. So these teams all get hit by a bunch of different ways. You're either a partner team or you qualified through the conference. That's where FTW and MIBR came from. Same as like Endpoint, Eternal Fire, Heat, etc. We can kind of visit them a little bit later. Outsiders also came from the conference, just to make sure we get that sorted. So you can see here the group on the screen. Counter-Strike's is going to be going on from Wednesday to Sunday this coming week. Now, I guess we want to look at some predictions here. Valde, FaZe top in the group with ease, or do you think they have a chance to have a bit of a NAVI slip up?
I'm not sure if they'll top the group. Like, it would be my prediction, but I'm pretty sure they'll make it through. I think as the teams are lined up on HLTV, I think that's kind of how the group will go. So like FaZe first, and then G2 and Big making it through as well. And then random order, the last 3 teams.
Yeah, I don't want to disparage a team like FTW. I'm going to kind of put them in a similar boat as how we'd put Endpoint. But even more of an unknown factor with this lot, right? Studodo is the only one that is even, I want to say, remotely a household name when it comes to knowing from this region of Counter-Strike, right? So it's going to be a bit of an issue with some of the pronunciations of some of the players' names there as well. If anybody from the Portuguese scene wants to show me how it's said, let me know so that I can make sure that I'm saying their names correctly when I commentate them starting on Wednesday. But I think safely we can put them at the bottom of the barrel. But do you think there's much stock to be put in like an Outsiders or an MIBR? Prof, do you think that these teams here could maybe come in and disrupt the order?
I was just looking at the Outsiders. They played 12 games since the major.
Yep.
12 games.
Yeah, but Fame is number 2 in ELO on Face It.
To be honest, they lost quite a bit of them, and that's what didn't really allow them to go further. Like Rubet Cup, they got eliminated. Cologne, they got eliminated. But that's almost like nothing. We didn't see much from them. So these are like under how do I say this? Let's say underdog CIS team coming off of almost no practice. Have we heard this story before?
So they're
Is
going to win,
there-
is what you're saying.
I mean, they're not going to win, but they could also surprise, do something. They have Jane, they have Flit, they have Kicker. These are pretty good players.
Yeah.
G2 and Big should still go through, but you never know, right?
Yeah. Well,
I-
yeah, Striker.
No, I just, in terms of outsiders, I'm still waiting for them to even show that they are anywhere near the level that they were before, because so
They
far
lost
from
your
what
kingdom, mate.
that's what I'm saying. But that's so far with what we've seen from them, they haven't, like, when they match up against some of these like top teams, they just don't look like the same outsiders. Like, they just don't have the firepower. Like, they can't match up against them. Like, I think the only team from like top 15 they beat since they lost Ikindar was Big in Cologne, and that was with Keto, you know, having to come in and
Just
step
have
in
to
like
be
stand
big
and
here,
stuff.
mate. Just have to be big and MIBR and FTW, and they
That's
could maybe
the thing.
be
Like,
through.
they could be that, you know, third to fourth. Like, they could fight for that third to fourth spot. But I think in terms of like matching up against the FaZe, especially, I mean, G2 are still kind of like a little bit of an unknown to me, but I think they're still much ahead.
Yeah.
So I think maybe they could fight for the third place with Big.
Could be a bit of a stomp of a group. I think it's going to be an interesting one to see where everybody's at, kind of thing. Because if I'm the teams who are partner teams for Blast, and I'm in Group B of Pro League or Group C of Pro League, either of those two groups I think is the perfect place to be, because you get out of the player break, right? You probably practice for the last week of the break. Then you go into your Blast officials, you play all those. So you get 2 weeks of back in business. Then you get to go home for either a week or two, in Group B's case, a week and a bit. Then you come here and you play another tournament. Then you get to go home. And if you qualify for the playoffs, you get to fix all your mistakes between there and the playoffs, and then go straight into the RMR, and then hopefully everything goes well. So they kind of get like this more like pulse, right? It's not just like Counter-Strike, and then nothing. It's like we get to do a little bit, drop off, do a little bit, drop off, right? So that's kind of a nice lead-in for these teams here. But yeah, I don't know. I want to see if Hooksy can get this mental problem, I would say, you know, because the fact that it's out there in the universe now with the fragging, it's going to stay in his mind, right? It's really hard to kind of shake that. So that's going to be, I'm not expecting him to come in and drop like fucking 30 kills a game, right? But just so he feels more comfortable and he isn't worried about it. Because if he's worried about it, it's going to affect the way he leads the team, which is probably going to be a bit of a factor there. Definitely want to see more out of Justin. So G2 though, if they don't qualify in a group like this, it's a bit of a disaster. Isn't it?
Yeah, that would be a really rough spot for it to be in right before the major cycle. Like, that would be really worried for them if that happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What? Why? Just because you think there'd be like a lot of self-doubt?
Just because if you, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you, like, let's say you lose to an MIBR and an outsiders, and you end up outside of the group, or if it's big and outsiders and you just end up fourth, right? Even if you beat MIBR and FTW, like, that's a problem. Like, those are the teams that you should be beating, like, whatever, 8 out of 10 times or whatever it is, you know. So, like, if you can't match up against those, then like how can we expect you to qualify for the major at that point, you know? So that's where I'm sitting with G2 if they fail this group.
Sure. Okay. Well, I want to know what's your opinion on G2 here, Valde, because there's been some like pros and interviews have been asked questions about some of the changes, and a lot of them like allude to the G2 changes as maybe not being necessary. How do you view the changes they've made?
Why do you ask me a question right when I'm getting snacks?
Oh, I didn't see. You're over there. Unless I'm looking over this way, right? Well, we can fill and we can come back to that. That's not a problem.
All good. I think it's like an interesting change, but I do agree with you that I think it's really a problem for a top team if they have such a weak spot individually, like a player on the team, right? I'm not saying he should be, 1 rating or above. I just think being able to hold your own and not having that weak spot in other people's minds, which people feel like they can exploit, I think like that's a real problem that I can see for them. Because when you go up against a team like NAVI or like FaZe, it is just gonna be rough, just firepower wise. But I do think they looked a little bit better as a team overall. And I do agree with you that in a group like this, I don't feel like they can afford not to qualify for playoffs.
A bit of pressure on them then.
I think when we're on the topic when we're on the topic of G2, Alexi B lasted like 6 months in this lineup.
What are you
do
saying
you,
now?
Do you think?
Where are you going here?
I mean,
Is it time to make a bet or what?
no, I'm going in a different direction. Like,
okay.
Valde played with Alexi B, so I'm like, are you surprised by that? Do you think he deserved more time?
Wait, you surprised he only lasted 6 months is the question.
I mean, I saw the. I feel like, was it HLTV interview or something? I saw the interview with the Twist from FaZe.
Yeah.
Who spoke about the fact that maybe some teams are constantly like restarting the whole process because they're doing roster change too often.
Yeah, that
And
was
I think, like, I think he did have like a valid point, but on the other hand, you know, you also saw plenty of teams where things obviously aren't working out, and then they keep the team for too long, and then it's just like a dead team, or like it's quite obvious that things are not working out. So it is a really fine balance in terms of changing, but I don't know, like somehow I feel like they change too quickly. Like you never know if you get a good reset during the summer break. Maybe you come back stronger after the summer break, play a really good pro league leading into the major. You never know what can happen, you know, like I feel like they were just one good result away from actually improving as a team. But obviously at the end of the day, I don't think there is anybody who can tell for sure what was going on unless you're inside the team. I think it's so hard to know like who's to blame for this, who's to blame for that. How much of it was Alexi's fault? How much was the team's fault? Like the coaching, the org, managing stuff. I think it's impossible to tell unless you're actually inside the team in terms of like knowing what went on. If you know what I mean, like it's just so hard to tell. And I didn't really see anything from the outside, like something obvious that pointed me in this direction. Like I know everybody was saying like Alexis' leading style is maybe not gonna fit G2, but yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. I just think they have such good individual players on paper, and I know Alexis has a great mind for the game. So on paper, I feel like it could be really dangerous when he signed for G2, but I guess at the end of the day, you know, things didn't work out, and then I guess they had to do a change. But maybe it was too early. I mean, I would have liked to see them for a bit more before they made that change.
Oh, well, especially with how quick we are going to just get into the RMR and then the major. It's just going to blink and we miss it. We get through basically two and a half tournaments and we're already fucking there. So yeah, it's going to be curious to see. The thing is, G2 have already beaten. G2 already beat Big at Blast, right? They played in that gauntlet bracket, I'm pretty sure. So they're probably confident at least in that one there. I think like MIBR is going to be a real big bogey team for a lot of people, especially if like Henny just gets to get up to his own tricks, his old tricks, and he's on form, right? That's something that's going to be, because he is a force, right? That guy when he was on Furia and shit was going well, he was just an absolute fucking monster. So I'd be curious to see like what kind of form that team's in. Always a little bit difficult to get past, but lost Cello, right? One of their more like aggressive kind of riflers. All in all, it's not a mega exciting group, I wouldn't say. It's FaZe G2 and then someone else, right? And I don't even know if that someone else is big. I still want to see more from this team. I think having Keto there now hopefully brings them more consistency and firepower, but that is only going to come with time and more matches. And outsiders, it's just interesting to see if they're going to be running with the same kind of style or if they're going to, because like I was watching this Fame guy stream, like he's sharp, like he can aim, right? And you've got Kicker and Flair, and they're also not to be fucked with either. So there's some firepower on this outsiders squad. It's just going to depend on their approach. So okay, let's take a little bit of a look here. Do we want to jump in and quickly look at our fantasy?
Or do you want to do group C with Valde? Are we doing that?
Group C
because
with Valde.
he's in Group C, so just get like a short preview of what he thinks about the teams.
Yeah, but he might not give us. All right, we'll ask him anyway. All right, we know we're not going to get anything. We'll put our fishing rods in the water here. We'll see what we can get. Okay, so ENCE in Group C, which will be taking place next week, and we mentioned the teams earlier, but this group here, like in terms, it doesn't feel mega top heavy. It actually feels like a really solid
balanced,
group. Yeah. ENCE, Heroic, Astralis, Mouse, Complexity, and Heat. So you've got some Danish rivalry in this one, mate. There's a couple of Danish teams here that you're going to have to go up against. Who do you think is going to be your biggest competition here? Because Heroic, Astralis, Mouse are all not to be sneezed at, and then Heat and Complexity might have a bit of upset potential as well.
I'd probably say Heroic.
Biggest threat, yeah?
Yeah, I feel like they're probably like the hardest team to beat.
Is their play style, or you just think that they're individuals?
I guess both. Like, even though they maybe haven't looked as sharp after the player break, I still feel like they're a dangerous team. They obviously also had a lot of time to fix the problems now. So I think that will probably be the hardest game. But like all the teams will be close, and I think we're both playing Heat in the first game here and in the RMR, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that will be a little bit interesting for us. Yeah, just like playing the same team twice at the next couple of tournaments. So yeah, I guess those two games are going to be like the most important ones for us.
What do you think about Astralis? I might as well get you while we got you here. Is like they're ranked 5th in the world right now. Do you think they're the 5th best team in the world?
I think the HLTV ranking after the player break, I that is
It's got it. I mean, that's how it is, right? But there's just a lot of
I think Chat's
uncertainty.
face says it all.
Yeah, it's a bit funky at the moment, isn't it? See how long Movistar Riders stay in the top 10, shall we?
The thing is, like, the problem is not only we have a player break where nothing happens. Like, some teams play like outside of the top 20, 30. But then after that, we don't even have tournaments. We have group stages.
I know, it's like, don't get me wrong. I think
these things.
I think when you get like
this is not an excuse.
No, I'm just saying, like, when you get halfway into the season, I feel like the HLTV ranking is really good because then you have a couple of tournaments to go off from.
Yeah.
And then you get a way better perspective of where the different teams are actually at. But right after the player break, where like all the teams, who made the roster changes are getting punished because they lose a lot of points. And yeah, there is like, I think it gets really skewed. Like that.
I mean, the thing that people kind of need to understand is, like, obviously they look at Astralis and they say, how can they be the 5th best team in the world, right? But if you look at teams around them, it's like, who do you put above them with confidence? At this point, like, especially after changes, we just have. Well, yeah, pretty much. But then Cloud9 haven't played anything for 2 months, right? And Heroic actually haven't looked that great with.
Yeah, true. Actually,
with Yappy after
2021.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, people are just like, oh, number 3 for Astralis. Like, it doesn't make any sense, but they didn't look at the other teams. Like, who do you actually put there?
So we're in a mega weak top 10 then, is what we're saying.
Yeah, I mean, we are. It is an extremely weak top 10 at the moment, just because, like, if you think about if you think about it from like an eye test perspective, right? Especially after teams like ENCE, big, even Heroic, dating back a couple of months. Mouse now, G2 have made just changes. OG just brought in another player. Movistar lost their upper. NIP, Astralis, Vitality. Well, Vitality just changed the player, but they actually have some results now. Yeah. Like, NIP, Astralis are basically like the 2 teams that people have the most problems with being that far.
Well,
but
Movistar
it's because they are Movistar now, of course, yeah, because that's just the Cologne kind of hype still keeping them up, right? Yeah, but like, you will just stay towards the top if you stay consistent with the team right after the player break, right? That's just how things go with a lot of changes happening in the scene.
Probably after the major, right? It will be sort of fixed. Because then
I mean, I think even after the RMR.
Yeah, after the RMR.
I think even after the RMR, just because we will have like all these 24 teams play, then we'll have 32 teams in Europe plus Americas plus Asia play. That's suddenly shitloads of matches and shitloads of results that you have to take into consideration. We will see you guys play. We will see all these new teams play, and that's where we get some info from the actual lineups that are now in the ranking, right? Like, we just work with outdated info at this point. That's why the ranking is so kind of like difficult to even
topsy-turvy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's just weird nowadays how the season works. Like, okay, we have Cologne. That's like 15th of June, July, and then you have a month player break. Then you have the groups of Blast, which are okay form-wise. You get some results, but it's not a tournament. You don't get a winner. You don't get the number 1, the number 3, number 5. You get 6 teams out of 12 that go through. Okay, then we go into 5 weeks of Pro League, which the first 4 are practically qualifier. Blast group stage is practically a qualifier. Okay, we have playoffs of EPL, which is an actual tournament, and then we have RMR, which is another qualifier. So in like 3 months from Cologne, we don't have we have one tournament. Yeah, we have one. And how do you rank the top 5 teams if half of the teams go through out of every event that we play practically?
It feels like a unique problem, though. This is kind of to do with the changing of the tide of like how the circuit is, because it's not like it used to be where it would be like an event for a week and then maybe a week off and then another event, or how you say event to event to event, like you were talking about before, Valde, where you were going from Canada to fucking God knows where. It's definitely a different structure now. And this is one of the pros / the cons, right? Is the tournament calendar is taken up for 5 weeks by this group stage and playoff, but it also means that players aren't consistently on the road, right? Like there's a trade-off in that regard, because remember we were in a period where player burnout was such a crazy thing, and it's not saying that players still don't have to play, but they don't have to travel as much, which was a huge deterrent on how much you were able to recover, right? Because if you're on an airplane, you're always going to feel like shit for a couple of days. So that is a net positive, but then we have less events overall to weigh these teams against each other, which I would say is probably a negative, because we don't really know where teams stand. But then I guess by the time we get to the major, then there's no like dispute of, oh, well, these guys just won this tournament before and these guys just won this tournament after. We're still going to have tournaments before and after, but it's a bit more of like a gradual build, and everybody now feels like they're a bit more aware of ramping into the major. I don't know if that is
By the way, yeah, just want to say one thing, since people have been complaining. FaZe is now the #1 team again by 3 points.
Oh yeah, that's the
So now the ranking is fixed.
right?
Let's go.
So that means that in back-to-back weeks, Henry and I can call 2 separate teams the #1 team in the world.
Yeah.
We'll call a Navi the #1 team in the world last week, and then this week now we can call it FaZe again. Thank you. This is fucking great. We can just change the narrative every week.
You don't have it in the contract that you have to use the ESL ranking or that.
No, like they don't say like don't mention tournament organizer X or don't use HLTV ranking this. Like I think they would probably prefer if we use the ESL ranking one, but I don't know. Like if the ranking's wrong on half of the graphics that they put up, it's a bit less likely that I'm going to refer to it. You know what I mean? Sometimes their ranking isn't even as it should be. Yeah. Okay. Where are we at here? Okay. Do you want to do this fantasy check-in?
Yeah, let's check in on the fantasy. I can't wait to see how my team has been doing. Me and Dinko.
Yep. Lucas, I'll send you the link. Go back to the celebrity leaderboard down the bottom here and show everybody where we're at, and then we'll bring up our teams for this week, I suppose, Prof. We'll get
me
those
and Dinko are
as
the
well.
only guys that played twice and still are yet to score a point. So
okay. Well, Jason
shout out
only has
to my,
one, so
yeah. And then Launder's only played 1 game, but he finished -1 in EPL Group A. Like his points were -1, while you had like 280.
Sure. Okay.
So that's a success in itself.
Banks has played once and he's top of the charts.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know how that happened, because he's a Navi fanboy.
Sure.
Picks Navi people all the time.
Yeah.
Navi shit the bed, and he's not. What happened?
And he only played 1 game.
That is insane. I got fucked by Navi. I'm not gonna lie. Like I got double Navi.
Where is Striker on this list again?
I didn't actually put it together because I always forget. That's the problem. Like I just constantly forget about putting together my fantasy or doing boosters and shit. So I
thought I could troll him.
Nope.
Shit.
I'm just not taking part.
Where is Lucas? Oh, I was getting you to show the celebrity leaderboard. There's my oh, there it is. There you go. You brought it up. I'll get you my link now. So yeah, so basically at the end of this, at the end of the season, whoever tops this is winning 1,000 schmackaroos.
We don't know the forfeit for the last place person. I saw some stuff on Instagram for like fantasy football people, and one guy needed to like sit in a diner for 24 hours, and if he ate a portion of pancakes, then it went down like for an hour or something. It was weird. And some other guy was like, I don't know. So my idea was maybe we do like a 24-hour matchmaking stream for the guy that's last. Like he needs to stream matchmaking for 24 hours.
Jesus, that is.
And then to spice it up, make it in Valorant.
Well, no, let's not do that. Let's come on now. I like the idea of the 24-hour stream matchmaking for Counter-Strike. For Valorant, come on now, Prof. Let's be serious for a second.
Kind of inhuman, I feel.
You don't want to be upsetting people here. Okay, this is my team. Who would have thunk it? I picked JKS.
Weird.
And I picked Monacy. And both of them were carrying me when they were pugging with me. That was great. So I went with this. This is apparently meant to be one of the most common teams here.
What do you mean, bro?
Yeah.
Didn't you lose 7 faces in a row?
Today I did. They were traveling today, so I was solo queuing.
They got fucked traveling, by the way.
That is
apparently.
You got
They apparently got
carried
fucked traveling.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Me too. I think like Xtas put up something on Twitter saying like,
Oh yeah,
Nico
that
lost
travel
his
day.
luggage,
Yeah,
2 people
Justin's
got stuck in an
Frankfurt at the
airport in
moment, yeah.
Frankfurt. I
Yeah,
don't know what else.
I saw that as well.
Yeah. The travel
Rough.
at the moment's fucking mental. But yeah, that's my team. What's your team looking
Why
like?
are you
Prof?
constantly going up and down? Oh, there you go.
Here we
Okay.
go. Now you can see that my team is almost the same.
Holy shit! It is almost
So three
exactly the
out of
same.
5.
It's a very obvious combination to pick because JKS is super cheap. Like he's 179,000, which is for a player of his capability and for G2 as a team and this group, it's just such a good pick. And then Kerrigan is the same because you expect FaZe to top the group, and just with the leader, he's gonna be okay. He must be. And then it's just the question of who we're picking out of the remaining, like Monacy, probably Monacy and Brokey, or maybe you want to go Niko and like Twists or Rops, and just what kind of combination from G2 and FaZe you're looking for. And then we're going to get for the 5th. I went for Kickert as my kind of punt on the last player.
Yeah, okay, that's kind of the thing. You're gambling on which team you think like has some chance of getting through, right? So
yeah,
all right.
But like if this is the standard team, maybe we need to do something different. Maybe go some completely different, because this is just going to give you like middle of the pack results.
True. So that means
maybe you just get one. Maybe that kicker pick is the one that pushes you over the rest of them.
Makes a difference.
Just one player that could make a difference. So I don't think it's that bad.
Okay.
Like I think this is pretty solid reasoning.
All right. Well, if anybody wants to play fantasy at home, head to hltv.org/fantasy. If you guys want to play, you can have some fun, make some ladders with your friends. There's some that HLTV put up. You can check them out. Okay. I guess we can just move into playtime. We don't really need to roll the bumperino or anything.
Yeah.
Are there any like leftover topics that we wanted to bring up here? Was there any conversation that we wanted to have with Valde? Because we did the questions a little bit earlier. Maybe people in Twitch chat right now, if you have any questions that you would like to ask Valde, please ask now. And while I am doing this, if you're not following HLTV Confirmed on Twitter, Prof, go follow HLTV Confirmed on Twitter.
Why?
Yeah. Well, because we're almost near 20K.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
and
what was the question?
Also September is going on, so if you want to sub, you get a discount. And if you do that, that money goes somewhere, and no one does anything with it. So
it just sits in a little bank account.
But there's a counter on subs, and people in the company, some people like to see that number go up. So that's nice. There's a question, maybe even for Valde. There's a guy on Instagram says, is there something about CS/esports that you would like to have academically researched?
Academically researched? Holy shit.
So someone's going to go in a laboratory and figure out some shit, like maybe what
I have an answer.
The distance from the screen or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I can start off by saying I feel like all that reaction time bullshit is like fucking overrated. Like, I don't know, like maybe we have faster reactions, I don't know, but it just always feels like that aspect is a little bit overrated. But yeah, maybe Striker has a good answer.
I mean, I was going to just say the age thing. Why do esports players, age, or like why do esports players retire like 10 years earlier than, when you compare it to basically any other like big sport or anything like that. So that would be one. I mean, I have a theory, but it would be nice to have an academic answer.
I mean, yeah, true. I think a lot of it is like the money reasons. Like there is just more money in normal sports. So like if you haven't made it by 25, 26, or if things aren't going too well, I think you need to consider other things in life, like other options.
Yeah, but I mean, it's more to do
that's
with
a big reason. And then do you mean like if you still have the level?
It's just more like falling off, like once you pass 30s, which is there's a lot of data for that. Like there's obviously some sort of correlation, right? But
I guess we're like kind of the first generation who's making like a full-time living from playing esports.
Yeah.
And I do think as we get further on, I think the average age of the pros are gonna get older and older.
Yeah,
like
I agree with that.
I don't see a reason why a guy like Niko, Simple, can't be one of the best players in the world by the time that they're like 30. If they still have the dedication and they still put time into the game. Like I literally see zero reasons why. Like you see so many people who like in real life sports, I know we have like the badminton world and Olympic champion in Denmark, he had a kid. He's also getting a little bit older now. Like Ronaldo in football has plenty of kids. Like I think all these reasons you already see now. Like I remember when the first CS players started getting kids, it was like a big deal to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that people don't even think about anymore. Like because nowadays, there is plenty of of people who already had the kids hurdle out of the way, so to say. So yeah, my bet is that the average age will get older as we go on, and as more money get into the sport.
I mean, my theory on top of what you said, I agree with pretty much everything that you said in terms of, we haven't really had enough time at where it was profitable for people to be able to, put in time consistently, is that I think esports is much more there's much more of a meta shift from maybe not as much in CS, but at least especially in games like League of Legends and stuff like that, where you have to relearn a lot of it, like from a season to season and stuff like that, and like things change at a faster pace and like normal sports, in terms of how you approach the game, or certain moves that you can no longer do. Like we've been talking about how CS has become so much better in the last, let's say, 5 years, like compared to 5 years ago. Even like it was much more mixed at the time. People weren't so afraid of taking duels and stuff like that. You would see people taking many more duels, and obviously, once that shifts, like you have to adapt to that. And if you're not good at it, you're just going to start falling off quickly. And so I think that's not as big in pretty much any sport that I can think of.
Interesting. I think one of the things is what Valde keeps mentioning about the fact that people like losing that drive and dedication to keep playing as much, because it's the same thing as with Roy, right? He's an older lad, but it's like, Roy, you're still mechanically fucking everybody up, and you ask him, what he's doing. He just said deathmatch, right? Remember we had him on the podcast when we did the live one, and that's the thing, like the amount of time that you're actually just putting into physically playing the game, and that becomes harder to do the older you get, because then you start to pursue other things in life. You maybe have a family, and then those things all add up. This is like, and this is not me like flexing or anything like that. This is a genuine experience that I just had the last couple of days that I want to share with everybody right here. So maybe, we can warm everybody's hearts, but getting to just play some Face It games with JKS and Monacy and have them carry my ass, but to just play with Monacy, who's 17 years of age, and you can tell this is it. Like he's got the bug, he's got that obsession. And I know that like everybody at home who's ever had that.
What bug
Not a bad bug.
A new molly or what?
No. The Counter-Strike bug, guys. The one where,
okay.
when we were in high school, Valde, and that's all you could fucking think about. You had nothing. It was just fragging. That's what he has. And it's like, it's infectious. It's just, let's go again. Like it just playing and like enjoying it, like not raging, not just always just playing to be better. Like we're playing games, the kid's dropping 40 kills, and here I am like bringing up the rear with 3, and he's like telling himself, he's like, I gotta be better. I was like, no, dude, I've got to stop fucking being shit, right? We're losing these games, and I only lost 1 game, right? But I'm fucking like, I'm playing, and it's like infectious to see this kid who's in that obsession period, right? Because we've all been there at one point, right? Eventually that starts to either taper off, or you view it from a different perspective or whatever. But he like, and I was like, this is it. And as you get older, like Forrest still plays every day. You can tell he still like loves Counter-Strike every day, but he's got a family, he's got a kid, he's got a wife, so he's other things that are going on. And if you're still able to give Counter-Strike like the majority of your focus, the older you get and you have different then yeah, I think that a lot of these guys, especially the mega phenom guys we're talking about here, the superstars for sure. But I also think that the new generation coming through are always building on what the older generation did, right? They have that assumed knowledge because it already exists when they start playing. And Counter-Strike, because Striker, as you mentioned, has these layers getting added so constantly that these kids are getting this assumed knowledge basically when they walk in, either because of all the tools or because of all the content that's made available. So I think it's really cool how quick and like everything evolves around here. In terms of people being able to play late, I think that it'd be a fun study to see how many people just stopped fragging. Like how many people just stopped playing deathmatch every day and stopped playing the pugs and shit. Like I think that'd be fun. There's one question here for you,
I have a question.
Yeah?
I don't know how many people will appreciate this question, but I did. There's a question for Valde.
Okay.
Asks, have you ever heard Niko, Danish Niko, actually talk about his furniture?
What about this furniture?
I know what
like the house decorations and like stuff like this.
Is he an interior designer?
Have you ever talked to him about these things?
No, I don't think so. It's like maybe I'm wrong. Why?
Well, no.
What's the deal? I feel like something fishy is going on.
There was a Flames interview where he was talking about like how different the new OG is to the old one, right? And he's like, the new guys are just like so much younger. They are like my age, right? I can talk to them about normal things and not like Niko talking to me about his house, like buying a house and buying furniture for it. So that's the difference.
Okay. They can talk about anime and
I don't know what
sad boy
he didn't
music.
say exactly, but he just said like the age thing, you know.
Fair enough. Okay.
But yeah.
There's somebody on Twitter who wants to know how SunpayUs is English.
I think his English is good, but there is still some words that he needs to learn. But the good thing is he's like very open-minded person, very like outgoing. So when there is something he doesn't understand, he's asking, right? But we had a fun moment in practice. Like we were playing Mirage, right? And then then he's on BFs with the orb or something. And then there comes a molly. So he says like fire B, but it sounds like 5B, right? So like Duha and Madden is just pulling knife out on A, just like running to B, and they get shot in the back and we lose the round. Like so shit happens, you know, shit happens. Shout out to my boy Elvao. Not gonna like not to sell him or anything. Like it was a great moment. Like we didn't give a fuck that we lost the round, you know, we just all had a good laugh. And yeah, but his English is like fine.
Yeah,
it's getting better by the day.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like I did an interview with him in Cologne, and I mean you can tell like he will struggle with certain words and stuff like that. He's not super fluent, like perfectly fluent, but he'll get his point across.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see any other questions popping up. This is everybody at home's last chance to get it in before we close down the show for the evening. Did we miss anything tonight, guys? Did we get through everything? Did we talk about what we needed to talk about?
I just wanted to mention you're talking about Forest streaming and fragging and stuff. Apparently, he's planting a tree for every 5 subs that he gets, and so he's gonna plant if there's enough subs. He's gonna plant so many trees. It's gonna be a forest.
Yeah.
I feel like that's amazing.
I don't know where's he gonna plant the trees. Do we know those details yet? Sweden, somewhere in Sweden. Okay, great. I meant like, is he doing it in his fucking backyard? Is he ordering? Is he going to plot of land? Is he just going down to the local park and fuck it? I guess we'll have to find out this information. Okay, all right. Well, I'm having a quick scan here, having a quick look. People want to know. I guess
we can just announce the next. Yeah.
People want to know if you fly economy or business or first class. Actually, Pippin wants to know if you fly economy or first class, Valde.
I mean, before I fucked up, I should have stayed in OG because I saw they got business to Australia. So I'm flying monkey class.
Yeah, they were in Emirates or some shit as well.
Yeah,
it's mega nice. That's
really
like the top of the top, mate. That's like you're talking 10K plus a flight. Like that ain't cheap, mate. Okay, all right.
Do you think they got business back after they lost to Wingsup?
I think that if I was going to hazard a guess, I would say to incentivize OG to go to the event, they probably told them they can have business class flights.
All right.
If I had to hazard a guess, I don't know, but if I was a betting man, that's probably what I would say. I don't think OG would have paid for that. I don't think the players would have paid for that. I think ESL probably would have paid for that. I don't know, but I'm assuming. Okay. Are we good? Everyone good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Everyone looks good. Okay. Well, Valde, thank you for joining us tonight. What do you want to say to the people at home?
Take care. See you at Pro League.
You don't want to. Nati didn't get you out here to like plug any sponsors, and we had on here plugging rival skin sponsors last week. I couldn't fucking believe it.
Thank you all the sponsors. Go to the ENCE website, buy some merch, buy more merch, buy my player jersey.
Easy for ENCE.
Buy anything. Easy for ENCE.
Do you get a percentage of
I was gonna
jersey?
Say, yeah, I get 50-50.
Really?
Oh, I'm kidding.
I was going to say, that's a pretty fucking sick deal.
Nah.
You go buy a Valde jersey right now. That'd be awesome. Okay, well, you baited me there. All right. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Look forward to watching you play with ENCE in about a week's time, really. Week and 2 days. And thank you to everybody for tuning in again. Thank you to the sponsors. We always have Xtrfy, Bitskins, and N1 Bet. Gamble responsibly. Thank you for tuning into another week of HLTV Confirmed. We're going to be back next Tuesday, right, Prof? Wait, you're not going to be here.
I'm not going to be here, so.
But Striker and
I don't care.
might be here. So we have to plan
Yeah.
what we're going to do for that show. It also might change if I have to get flown to Katowice, Poland.
It is Tuesday, by the way.
Yeah, we'll update you on the guests, but we do have we've got some dates. The 13th would be the next show. The one after that will be the 20th of September. So we've got a couple in the bag. We've got a couple of guests planned, and that'll be it. Thank you for everybody for watching, and good night.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets, guaranteed.
Stuck ranking up? Lost the motivation to grind? Bored of clicking heads on aim maps? Get some color into your game. Bitskins.com. Buying and selling skins made easy. Tons of payment methods and instant cash outs. Just choose your dream skins, select your preferred payment method, and start grinding again. If you want to play like the pros, you gotta look like the pros.
Do you feel it? N1Bet comes to brighten up your world. Play anytime, anywhere. Just go to n1bet.com and get your bonus with promo code HLTV. High odds and fast payouts. Playing is a pleasure when everything is clear. n1bet.com. Your bet, your game.